He's on vacation. Okay. He can. He can.
I don't think you can tell we're
Now,
making
there you go.
Yeah, you have to wave at the camera, I guess.
Gone.
Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2025 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2024, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Mr. Daffis?
Present. Here.
Engel?
Here.
Here.
Mayor Adams?
Here.
Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires the meetings of public bodies be open to the public. And whereas Section 7A provides that the governing body has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public at any meeting. And whereas desire the governing body to comply with the provision in this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner. Now therefore be it resolved by the Township Committee, Township of Maplewood, that it does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation and deliberations of the governing body by the public, except as otherwise prescribed by law, does limit the public to the observations of the actions and discussions of the governing body at all its regular and special meetings.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Luca?
Yes.
Bengel?
Yes.
Ms. Herman?
Yes.
Mayor Adams?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone, please rise for a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday, April 15th, the year is flying by, meeting of the Maplewood Township Committee. It's our regular meeting, and I'm just going to run real quickly through the agenda. We have a presentation or request by Maple Woodstock Committee requesting our support for Beer and Wine Garden this year's festival. Then we have 2 proclamations, one for the Parliamentary Law Month and one for National Public Health Week. Then we have some boards and committee appointments for the All Access Committee, and Deputy Mayor Herman will do those, and we ask that all of those appointees be brought up at the same time, and then we'll do a consent sort of approval for all their appointments. Then we have public comment for agenda items only. Then we have ordinances on final passage. We have a couple of ordinances for our township code, zoning code and development, and 3, actually, one for that includes fees for our municipal pool. Then we have another ordinance for Recreation Advisory Committee to reflect the changes in the number of the committee members that we discussed earlier. We have another ordinance to amend Chapter 72 on the Youth Advisory Committee. And then we have one introduction of ordinance, and that is for authorizing the township to obtain easements for stormwater facilities on certain properties on Maple Terrace, something we've been working on for years now, literally. Then we have reports from departments, which will be our 2025 budget report. Then we have administrative reports. Mr. Weary is joining us from vacation, which is very gracious of him to take time out this evening. But anything he needs assistance with, our assistant administrator, Miriam, will totally take over for that. So Jennifer Credidio, our township attorney, will report next, and then Liz Fritz. And then we will have the presentation of introduction of our 2025 budget, a brief presentation on that, and a resolution to accept the budget as introduced. Then we have reports from elected officials, Committee Member Daffis, Committee Member DeLuca, Committee Member Engel, Deputy Mayor Herman, and then I go last. During that resolution, during my report, I will ask for support from my colleagues for a resolution in support of the New Jersey Immigrant Trust Act. Then we have 3 discussion items. One is the reconstruction of Dehart Park grass playing field. Mr. DeLuca will lead that discussion, as well as the possible installation of Parker Avenue bike lanes. Then we have Mr. Daffis will do fee adjustment discussion for rental registration and zoning and CCUs. Then we will have the consent agenda. After that, we have a second public comment on any topic that anyone would like to speak to us for. Just a reminder, our public comments are limited to 3 minutes for each person. And with that, I will invite Maple Woodstock to come on up to the podium and do your very difficult ask of the Township Committee.
Thank you, committee members, for letting me be here this evening to represent the Maple Woodstock Volunteer Committee.
Susan, introduce yourself.
I'm sorry, I am one of the members of our 9-person Maple Woodstock Organizing Volunteer Committee. As we have done in past years, our committee is requesting that the Township Committee, Maplewood's Alcohol Beverage Control, and the Maplewood Police Department permit a wine and beer garden at this year's Maple Woodstock Music and Arts Festival, which will be the 20th Maple Woodstock.
Yes.
We've applied have applied for and received the social affairs permit from the state of New Jersey. And in that application, we detailed the controls and security protocols that we're planning to prohibit sales to minors and prevent any beverages from leaving the fenced-in area. And as has been the case in prior years, the South Orange Elks Lodge will manage the beer garden, and all bartenders will be appropriately certified. I did want to mention that we are now operating under the umbrella of the Music and Arts Education Project, a relatively new nonprofit organization whose mission is to support arts education in our community. To date, MAPE, as we call it, has raised and donated over $8,000 worth of supplies to the elementary schools, ensuring that all the arts and music teachers had the classroom supplies that they had requested for this academic year. The funding for those supplies had been eliminated in this year's budget. Aligning with MAPE, we have added a new element to Maple Woodstock this year. We will be having an art exhibit we're calling 20 Under 20 to celebrate the 20th anniversary, displaying the work of 20 artists under the age of 20 years old, so that we can celebrate the tremendous creativity of the young folks in our community.
And that'll be at 1978 Gallery?
No, that will
Not
be
yet.
in the park.
Oh, in the park,
Will be
okay.
in the park, in the East Field, or what most people refer to as the baseball field.
Sweet, thanks.
Thank you for letting me be here, and we hope you will allow us to have our beer and wine garden as part of Maple Woodstock.
Thank you, Susan. Thanks for coming tonight, and thanks for your presentation. Deputy Mayor Herman and I are the liaisons this year with the Maple Woodstock Committee. I think I've been liaison since I got on the Township Committee, which is appropriate given my history with the event. So does anyone have any questions for Susan? No? All right, then I'd like to make a motion to approve the beer and wine garden. I like the way you put it, wine and beer garden, as that's my preference. So for Maple Woodstock this year, can I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Daffis,
Yes.
Luca,
Yes.
Engel.
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Mayor Adams.
Yes, thank you so much. You can stay for the whole meeting if you want, or you can go home.
Much greatly.
Thanks very much, and thanks for all you guys are doing every year for this. It's the best. And 20th anniversary is just nice. It's just so, it's been a long road, so and just remembering the little foundling Maple Woodstock and seeing to what it's grown as, to the point where it's become recognizable and made put Maplewood and Woodstock on the map for a lot of music lovers. So thank you for all your work on it. It's a lot. Okay, with that, we'll move to the 2025 Parliamentary Law Month. And I'd ask Michelle Bobro to join me at the podium. Hello, League of Women Voters. Persons. Oh, we've got this. Fellow League of Women Voters. Well, it's fellow, it's, you know,
Compatriots.
bisexual. I don't know. I didn't mean it that way. Okay, so this is Parliamentary Law Month for April 2025. And I will read the proclamation into the record and allow you to say a few words, if you don't mind. Whereas in this birth month of Thomas Jefferson, author of the first American manual of parliamentary procedure in 1801, it is fitting that we honor him and reflect upon the importance of parliamentary procedure in democratic organizations. Whereas on this eve on the birth month of Henry Martin Robert, author of the Pocket Manual for Rules of Order for Deliberative Assemblies, also known as Robert's Rules of Order, which is way easier to say, first published in 1876, it is a worthwhile time to honor him and to celebrate his contributions to the field of parliamentary procedure. Whereas Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised, is the most widely recognized and used parliamentary authority in public and private organizations throughout the world. Whereas it is timely in this current environment of our federal government right now to reflect on the importance of parliamentary procedure in meetings, in providing for civil discourse, protecting individual rights, ensuring fairness, and maintaining order. Whereas the National Association of Parliamentarians has, by adoption of a standing rule, designated the month of April as Parliamentary Law Month. And whereas the National Association of Parliamentarians is committed to educating leaders throughout the world in effective and fair meeting management through the use of parliamentary procedure. And whereas the National Association of Parliamentarians is globally recognized as premier provider of parliamentary leadership, whose mission it is to provide education and resources to enable efficient and democratic decision-making through the effective use of parliamentary procedure. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Nancy Adams, do hereby declare April 2025 as Parliamentary Law Month and call upon the districts, associations, units, and all members to observe the month with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities as a way to honor our rich legacy and bring our mission and vision into reality for current and future generations.
Thank you
So
so much.
thank you.
Let me just start by saying the Pocket Manual has expanded over 700 pages, down from the 800 from the last edition. So we're condensed. We're condensed. Oh, do you? In this time when civil discourse is becoming more of a rarity, it is comforting to know that people can follow rules to speak civilly and conduct business in a businesslike manner. Both Thomas Jefferson and General Henry Martin felt the same way and codified rule books so all participants know the rules as well as their fairness and agreed to abide by them. For over 2 centuries, we have agreed to have civil discourse to move business along and to, according to General Martin, protect the rights of the minority in a civil society. While there are many other reference books, Roberts is the most frequently used and cited, although not in government bodies. We had a discussion with a previous township attorney who wanted to use Roberts, however, and did. However, it is not appropriate because Roberts demands that we do not talk to each other during governmental body issues. We only talk to and through the chair. And we are limited to only 10 minutes per person.
You mean entirely, so the meeting.
Until everyone else can speak. Lots of luck. So while it was adopted and it is an authority in your bylaws, which I recommend you read because they're fascinating, especially if you're an insomniac. Roberts is quoted as being an authority after the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of New Jersey, and the laws of New Jersey. This comes down on the list where it doesn't conflict, but I digress. Imagine if the Township Committee were required to speak only when recognized by the chair, and only to the chair to limit a speech to 10 minutes, to only speak a second time after all have been given the opportunity to speak as well. However, a chair or parliamentarian can also rein in wayward discussion, can keep business flowing by keeping discussion focused, and can otherwise address the needs of the group. I first became interested in studying parliamentary procedure when I was elected president of a local organization known as League of Women Voters of Maplewood, my compatriot. A mini course was offered through the adult school, and not only did I pass the test to become admitted to the National Association of Parliamentarians, but I became fascinated by all the solutions to different situations that might arise. When there is a motion on the floor under discussion, an amendment is proposed, and the fire alarm goes off, what do you do first? What does Robert say? Robert say, get out of the building. And then, when you can safely return, continue with your business. At the January 1st reorganization meeting of the Township Committee, the first business was the amendment of the bylaws. Did you know that according to the conduct of meeting, all meetings are to be held pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-6 at sequence? Ordinary parliamentary rules of order shall govern the conduct of meetings. In case of disputes, Robert's Rules of Order shall govern. Oh no. If you too are fascinated by how to make meetings more productive, to learn about motions and amendments, to help in writing and understanding bylaws, to understand convention procedures, I urge you to join a local unit of the National Association of Parliamentarians. I belong to the Cranford unit, an affiliate of the New Jersey State Association of Parliamentarians, which meets monthly by Zoom. Join those of us who are parliamentarians, learn with us, or even ask any of us for advice. We are only too happy to help you. And the website is njsap.org. Thank you so much.
Thanks. So rules of order are important. Maybe I'll take that little, you can only speak through me. That would be kind of,
Good luck.
yeah. I know. So with that, Ms. Engel, you have the next proclamation.
Yep, I do. National Public Health Week proclamation. Whereas the week of April 7, 2025 was National Public Health Week, and the theme was It Starts Here, highlighting the importance of making a difference in our home, community, and state. Whereas this year was the 30th anniversary of celebrating National Public Health Week, and in the past 30 years, significant strides have been made in public health, including the following public health successes. 1, deaths due to HIV/AIDS, which peaked in 1994 at 49,095 AIDS-related deaths that year in the U.S., have dropped significantly with antiretroviral therapy, ensuring most people with HIV can live normal lifespans, and prevention tools like PrEP significantly reduce transmission. 2, smoking rates, which were as high as 25.5% among U.S. adults in 1994, have now fallen to 11.4% due to comprehensive smoke-free policies, public awareness campaigns, and taxation of tobacco products. 3, childhood mortality, which was at a rate of 13.8 deaths per 1,000 live births in 1994, has now fallen to 5.4 deaths per 1,000 live births due to vaccines, better healthcare access, and nutrition. 4, mental health awareness and treatment, with 40% of people with mental health conditions being untreated in 1994, has progressed with increased awareness, parity laws, and integration into primary care, which have expanded access to mental health services and reduced treatment gaps. 5, lead poisoning, with 4.4% of U.S. children having elevated blood lead levels in 1994, has now fallen to less than 0.5% due to policies banning leaded gasoline and reducing lead in paint, pipes, and water systems. 6, health impacts of climate change, such as rising heat-related deaths, were underrecognized in 1994, but are now being mitigated by actions such as public health campaigns, local adaptation plans, including cooling centers and other preparedness plans to protect the public from extreme weather, wildfires, and other regional threats, and global frameworks like the Paris Agreement. And 7, pandemic preparedness, which was in its infancy in 1994, has now grown, especially after the COVID-19 pandemic, spurring significant advancements in mRNA technology, global vaccine deployment, and increased investments in infrastructure, stockpiles, and global surveillance, all of which must be sustained. Whereas racial and ethnic minority populations in the United States continue to experience disparities in the burden of illness and death as compared with the entire population of the United States. Whereas a person's health status can differ drastically by zip code due to differences in the built environment, environmental quality, community context, access to healthy food, access to education, and access to health care. Whereas public health organizations use National Public Health Week to educate public policymakers, public health professionals, and the public on issues that are important to improving the health of the people of the United States. Whereas public health professionals help communities prevent, prepare for, withstand, and recover from the impact of a full range of health threats, ranging from infectious disease outbreaks to natural disaster preparedness. And whereas efforts to adequately support public health and the prevention of disease and injury can continue to transform a health system focused on treating illness into a health system focused on preventing disease and injury and promoting wellness. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Deb Engel, on behalf of Mayor Nancy Adams and the entire Maplewood Township Committee, do hereby proclaim the week of April 7th to 13th, 2025 as National Public Health Week in the Township of Maplewood, and call upon the people of Maplewood to observe this week by helping our families, friends, neighbors, coworkers, and leaders to recognize the contribution of public health in improving the health of the people of our state and achieving health equity. As the theme states, it starts here. Feels like this was very important this year. So
Yeah,
thank you,
very
Ms.
important
Davenport.
issue. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Engel, and thank you to our health director, Candace Davenport. Although it was post the week, it's still vitally important that we recognize that given the current leadership in Washington, D.C. with regard to our public health and some of the issues we're dealing with locally as a result, which we'll get into in our budget conversation later. So with that, we move on to boards and committee appointments, and all of these are for the All Access Committee. So I'll turn it over to Deputy Mayor to call everyone up, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Mayor. I am so excited about the All Access Committee getting up and running this year, and I would like to call the members. I'll call you by name, and then if you could come up, and we'll just take turns introducing yourself to the committee, and then we can meet you all together, and then we're going to get together soon to meet for our first time. I'm very excited. Did I say that already? Okay. So the members, Leon Morton, Aaron Siders,
Come on up.
Amy Schwinder, Doug Greenfield, Mary Beth Walsh, Ruth Beckerman, and James Charles. So if you could come, oh, yay, up
If
to
you
the
wanna join
podium.
them, you can.
So I'm actually,
She's gonna trip over.
on the consent agenda for today as well, to be appointed to the committee as your liaison. So we're all in this together. So if you could, one at a time, come up to the microphone and just introduce yourself to the committee, Leon? And.
You can just move the mic.
Briefly in a sentence, well, because of my son. That would be why. Yeah, I served on a special ed PTO for many years, worked with Jerry Ryan many years ago to set up activities for the special needs population. I look very, very forward to being able to do so again. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Erin Cyrus, 22-year resident of Maplewood. I have a neurodivergent family. My son is 23 years old. He has autism and ADHD. And I have a background of serving the special needs community in our town, including serving as the CPAC president for 2 years for our school district.
Thank you.
Thing is that, first of all, thank you for starting this committee. I think it's really, really important. But one challenge, I think, for many of us who have children who are transitioning to adulthood is social isolation.
Mm.
And I want to make sure that this community remains a place where our children can continue to live here and really survive and thrive.
Thank you, Erin.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amy Schwinder. I was born and raised in South Orange, graduate of Columbia High School. I currently work for our school district as a speech language pathologist. I work with students from pre-K through high school with students with autism, most of whom are functionally nonverbal. I have initiated assistive technology and augmentative communication systems in all of our schools, and I evaluate our students both in district and who are placed out of district. And I want to see my students in our community more. I run into so many people I know, and I never see my students. So I want to make our playgrounds accessible. That's number one. And I just want to make our town the friendliest place it can be for the most special residents here.
Thank you.
Good evening, Doug Greenfeld, 23-year resident of Maplewood. I am an urban planner, and what I bring to the committee is knowledge of the physical aspects of accessibility, and I'm interested in joining the committee to give back to the community and make things more accessible.
Thank you, Doug.
Hi, I'm Mary Beth Walsh, a 28-year resident, I think, of Maplewood. I have an adult son who's 26 years old with severe autism, who's here with me tonight, and I'm interested in the needs of the adults developmentally disabled communities. I've also, like Erin and Leon, spent time on the special ed PTO back before it was even called a CPAC, and work a lot in including individuals with disabilities in religious communities, especially in my parish at St. Joseph's.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ruth Beckerman-Rodeau. I think I'm the newbie, 2 years in June in Maplewood. And my interest is both professionally and a personal nature. Professionally, my 35-year career was spent as a leader at governmental and nonprofit agencies that supported people with disabilities. And in Sharon, Massachusetts, where I used to live, I was on the Commission for Disabilities there. Personally, my sister-in-law, who is disabled, moved with us to Maplewood, and my husband, Andy, who's here tonight, and I are her primary caregivers.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time. You sound very busy.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. James Charles. Lived in Maplewood 25 years. Hi, Vic. I'm from the Dehart section. I remember Vic's hair was black.
I remember that too.
When I first moved here.
I remember that too. He was also heavier for a while.
I'm been a commercial driver for like over 40 years. I'm recently retired now, and I have 2 knee transplants. And one of the reasons why I wanted to join this committee is because I think the summer before last or last summer, I couldn't get to the fireworks. Like I had to park like way up on the hill and I couldn't walk. I just had to turn around, I had my grandkids with me. had to call my oldest son to come and take them down the hill because I wasn't walking back up those hills. And so I just want access to people of special needs and people with disabilities to have access to our town, festivities. Get closer with cars or, clear ways for people with wheelchairs and things of that nature. Because I didn't see that when, being here 25 years, I have not seen that. Also, like higher places to sit. It's hard for me to stand. Like these seats are really low. So like, I think there should be high chairs somewhere, especially our city benches on Springfield Avenue. When I go for a walk, I have to sit down. Now I sit on the plant potters on the edge of that because that's nice and high for me. But yeah, so that's why I want to be a part of that. That's it.
Great,
you.
thank you so much.
So I realize I want to take the opportunity to just tell everyone here what the committee is, because this is a new committee. The All Access Committee is designed, is a new committee, and we're going to talk about ways that we can make sure that Maplewood is accessible to everyone, regardless of disabilities, physical mobility issues, other challenges, and we're going to look at programming, events, infrastructure. As somebody who's had hip surgery, I hear you on these low seats. But it didn't occur to me. So that's why we need people like you. That's why we need, all of these people together. And we have a few more spots on the committee, and we are specifically looking for people who can speak to this issue. So I want to thank everyone for raising their hand and stepping forward for this new committee. I'm very excited to get to work. So
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor, would you like to make a motion for?
So Mayor, I would like to make a motion that we appoint all of the above to the All Access Committee.
I'll happily second that. Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Luca?
Yes.
Engel?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Mayor Adams?
Yes, and thank you all for stepping up and helping us out here.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, with that, we are moving on to our first public comment. For agenda items only. So if you want to speak to the Township Committee on any items that are on the agenda this evening, you may do so. You come up to the microphone. You can line up against the wall there if you'd like. Mr. Daffis, would you mind moving that chair over there?
Of course.
Thank you. So you can line up against the wall if you like, so that you, or just come up to the mic if there's no line. State your name and address, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Mr. Amari will put the timer on.
Hello, my
Wow.
name is Ken Stanek. I'm a Maplewood resident, Tuscan dad. I know all you guys. I'm a former board member on the Springfield Avenue Partnership. I'm here to talk about bike lanes on Parker Ave, and I think it's a wonderful idea. In a past life of mine, I was a bike messenger. I rode my bike across the country. I've ridden my bike in tons of cities. I've raced like sort of professionally. I won once. It was cool. Like I don't need bike lanes. I'm very comfortable with it. The most valuable thing that I've ever done on a bicycle, though, is organizing the Tuscan bike bus, which the bike buses, I'm sure you guys know about them. There's at least one other bike bus organizer here. A bunch of kids get together and ride to school. I've done so much stuff on my bike, and this is the best thing I've ever done, getting a bunch of kids together, get out on the streets and ride to school together. Like that sense of community that they build is fantastic. I've seen a kindergartner stumble his way through to school one week, and the next week was just like, I got this. And his dad was like, see you later. And I was like, yeah, he's amazing. So encouraging people to get out there and ride their bike is not only help to address like other concerns that this very committee is talking about, but it's a sense of community. It makes it safer for people to be on bicycles, just to say that it's allowed here. Like this is the space for them to say like this bike lane is for bicycles, like go there. Riders need to know that like, oh yeah, it's okay for bikes to be there. Like I rode my bike in New York City every single day for 30 years, 20 years, something like that. And what I saw in them putting bike lanes there is obviously wildly different than Maplewood, but the transition that happened was amazing. Once they made it more accessible for people to do, it immediately took off and it's become very, very popular. And I'm thrilled that it's even a conversation here in front of town council. And I know I could point to a lot of data about like how bike lanes make traffic even better, but I'm sure you've gotten all that data from a bunch of other speakers in previous meetings who know more about it than I do. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ken.
Thank you, Ken.
Next speaker. Come on up to the mic, introduce yourself and.
Hello, good evening. Good to see you guys again. It's much better in person than in Zoom.
Yeah, we don't see anybody unless they're one-dimensional, right? Yeah.
One-dimensional on a screen. Thanks so much, Township Committee, for allowing me to speak here briefly. I want to thank you guys and the engineering team for their work on the Complete Streets Traffic Calming Plan. I encourage you to continue being bold with this plan. Oh, I didn't mention my name's John. I'm a father of 2 girls. We're Clinton parents, and we do the bike bus over there. We ride on Parker Avenue. I ride on it 5 days a week. The girls ride 1 day a week. I'm grateful for the progress that's been made in improving safety I've seen on Prospect Street recently with the new delineators. And our own Orchard Road intersection has been daylit with Parker Ave, and I'm grateful for that, but I'm also concerned about ongoing dangers. I've personally witnessed several traffic incidents, including in 2023 when a speeding out of control vehicle landed in my neighbor's front yard. Becky and Eric, I think they're here tonight as well. In 2024, a car collided with my parked vehicle on Orchard Road after speeding on Parker Avenue and trying to make a fast turn on Orchard Road. I've also seen footage and heard the screams of a hit and run victim on Hudson and Parker Avenue intersection that was just bone chilling. Saddest of all, the one that no one seems to want to discuss, is the fatal incident of Maria Dolores Ganji Zhao on Springfield Avenue at 9:10 a.m. on May 13th, 2024, the day after Mother's Day. She left behind a 9-month-old baby and a 6-year-old who are now orphans. The incident occurred on Springfield Avenue, just 3 minutes drive from the stretch of road where we're considering traffic calming measures. It could have been any of our neighbors out walking their dog, jogging, or even working on the garden in their front yard. From what I understand of the township traffic study, it showed that 15% of drivers on Parker Ave are traveling faster than 35 miles an hour, which means there are hundreds of chances every day that someone could be seriously injured or killed. Engineers could correct me on the math, but what I heard was 3,000 to 5,000 vehicles per day on this roadway on average, and that would ballpark out to about 400 to 700 lethally speeding cars daily. That's not safe by any measure. I applaud the installation of bollards on Prospect Street, and I advocate for daylit intersections with delineators and or rumble strips or tough curbs at major crossings near Clinton School, including Burroughs Way, Union Ave, Hudson Ave, Coolidge Road, Boyden Ave, Orchard Road, Peachtree Road, Irvington Ave, Richmond Ave, and of course Prospect and Valley Street. There's some of those crossing flags in some of those intersections. It would be nice to see more delineators to narrow the roadways there and make it easier for people to cross. I believe there's additional demand for safer biking infrastructure. I've spoken to many residents that have tried biking and stopped because they were fearful for their safety. I'm grateful for our Soma Bike Bus community, I'm almost done, that give us the joy of traversing these charming 2 towns outside of a vehicle. I urge the installation of physical delineators and daylit intersections across the township in tandem with bike lanes wherever possible. Mapso is a place we love to call home, and we want to see our neighbors continue to prosper as they enjoy outdoor activities safely, whether that be walking, biking, jogging, or even gardening in their front yard on a busy street like Parker Avenue.
Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker. Hi, come on up. You might need to move the mic down a little bit. Bring it down so you can, so we can hear you. Please introduce yourselves and you have 3 minutes to speak.
My name is Cynthia. John is my. We live on Parker and Orchard, and bike lanes have become a really big conversation in our house because we ride everywhere. It's a sense of joy that we have as a family, and the girls wanted to share. They are part of this community.
Okay. Speak real close to the microphone so people at home can hear you.
I know change is hard, especially when you're against it. But we need change. Life would be kind of boring without it. The change I am talking about today is bike lanes. I understand how it feels. I remember after school and driving home, it was a whole thing to get parking.
Her words. Also, no offense, but those bike lanes are dangerous. Okay, that's why you should read it.
Go ahead.
Also, no offense, but those bike lanes are dangerous signs make like zero sense. You see, our kids and their friends are the future. They're going to take over in what seems like a long time. But we need to have things ready for our grandchildren. We need to have things well prepared for them so they can have fun and safe lives.
It was really important for her to come up and
Absolutely.
and share her words. I just wanted to say thank you so much to the township and all of your efforts for coming up with this plan for traffic calming. I think a lot of people are stuck on, bike lanes, yes, no, but truly it's about safety, right? I think that's something that we can all agree that, and something that unites us is that we want these roads to be safer in this whole community. As a Parker Avenue resident, I'm not gonna lie, I started to feel some kind of way when I saw all these signs down Parker Avenue saying that, stop the bike lanes are dangerous. I would like to ask the entire community to unite on what the real problem is. It's speed and vehicles, not bikes. Parker Avenue does not belong to the residents along this road. It belongs to everybody. It belongs to the entire Soma community. And we owe it to the next generation of residents to provide safer streets and greener alternatives for the environment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Always like to see young women coming up to the microphone. It's awesome.
Oh.
Not you.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Rob. I live on Richmond, a few houses off of Parker. I ride my bike on Parker regularly. My family's main local transportation is by bike. It's like take my 10-month-old son to daycare, lead the Marshall bike bus with my 7-year-old daughter, grocery shopping, just normal stuff. So I'm thrilled to see you all looking at making Parker safer, because I don't want to put my kids at risk. And I know, like, I've quoted stats to you in other meetings, and I won't do that. But about 18 months ago, I started the Safe Routes to School email, and I think all told around like 750 emails were sent to various government officials around Soma. And then a couple weeks ago, there were a few dozen families from around Maplewood that rode in a critical mass ride on Parker in support of this project. This is making safe streets is a family first priority, in addition to environmentally friendly and all these other wonderful things. So thanks.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks, Rob.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brian Herrick. I live in South Orange with my wife and my 2 daughters, who are 5 and 3. Parker Avenue is unsafe. I've seen it while in my car. I've seen it while walking. I've seen it while riding my bicycle with my 5-year-old as we go to daycare at the Y. She's not there anymore. She's at Seth Boyden. We are proud riders in the Seth Boyden bike bus on Friday. I've yet to encounter anyone who disagrees with that notion. And the main arguments against them can be copied and pasted from just about every argument we've ever had about bike lanes, which is parking. Streets are public spaces. Someone before me said we have to think about what we owe each other and what we owe the next generation. And the street in front of someone's house does not belong to the homeowner, it belongs to all of us. So, like she said, I want us to think about what we want to do with that space and what we owe each other. We want an artery that people can drive recklessly through, putting people like me and my kids at risk when we're trying to get to school? Or do we want to do everything we can to make it safer? What do we owe the kids who use Parker to bike to Columbia? There are so many of them. And what do we owe my daughter, who has been forced to walk the bike on the sidewalk while we go down to the Y. And for everyone that knows our sidewalks, it is a stretch to say that the sidewalk is safer than Parker Avenue due to the roots that make all the sidewalks buckle and the overgrown shrubs. And I think everyone here knows, I think we all deserve a safer street, and I think we owe it to the people of Maplewood and South Orange to do all we can in support of that. Let's trust the traffic engineers and experts and do what has worked to calm just about every street and every study I've ever read about. Let's put in bike lanes. I'm looking forward to it. And more importantly, my daughter is looking forward to it. Also, it's going to be fun. So thank you guys.
Thank you. Mana? Hi.
Hi, good evening. I'm Elaine Durbach. I'm the president of the Ethical Culture Society, mainly because nobody else would take the job. I also live in the building. I'm excited by the idea of having bicycle accessibility all over this town. I think it's a wonderful idea. Forgive me if I'm coming a little late to this discussion. I'm not sure everything that's been considered already, but it seems to me that we need maximum creativity to be able to accommodate all the different needs. The Ethical Culture Society needs parking on Prospect and Parker. Our members are old. They can't walk a long way, and we have no other parking. So if we lose the parking on these two streets, we lose our members. We need a way to accommodate them and at the same time not rule out this extraordinary plan. My suggestion is some kind of investigation of a time division. You know, we have parking in other parts of town between certain hours. I'm wondering if there could be bike accessibility during the hours when children are most likely to be riding, and in the evenings when AA is meeting at our building or in other places, that the evenings perhaps are not bike hours. My son, Gabriel, has another idea that's way out, but it's an example of creative thinking. He's been looking at the models from European cities where sidewalks have been widened and paved to make the sidewalks hospitable to walkers, pedestrians, and cyclists. All we're asking is that we bring all the creativity we can to bear so that everybody can be accommodated.
Thank you. Appreciate not too late at all. No decisions have been made, and this is part of the process to gather information. Thank you. Next.
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Rosemary Biddings, and I live at 95 Parker Avenue in Maplewood. I've been in this town almost 50 years. And I'm not opposed to bike lanes, but I'm opposed to bike lanes on Parker Avenue. For a while in front of my house, there was construction, and there were cones. And every day I would see the kids going back and forth to school, and they had to walk into the street to avoid the cones. And many, many times I saw, they would always look, but I saw how dangerous it was for them to just do that. And they were just going around cones. The problem with bike lanes on Parker Avenue is that the street is just too narrow. If they were just walking in the street for a short period of time to go around cones, what's going to happen when we have bike lanes on both sides of the street and then two-way traffic? We have had accidents on Parker Avenue. We've had to put up caution signs and four-way stops, and even that has not taken care of the fact that it's just a street that people like to speed down. I think that, and I'm being respectful, it's a little naive to think that because you put bike lanes there, that it's going to slow down traffic. Getting back to the young people who had to walk around the cones, I saw people speeding when they saw them in the street just for a short period of time. And if you think a bike is going to make a difference, I say that that's pretty short-sighted. I would hate to see children who are statistics because we didn't take the time to find a street that would be a lot more appropriate for bike lanes. And when I say a street that's a lot more appropriate, I mean one that's a lot wider. We can't widen Parker Avenue. Already, there is one whole block about Parker Avenue that's exempt from the bike lanes because it's narrower than the street I even live on. And the street I live on is way too narrow. When there's two-way traffic there, they're almost at the yellow lines. If we could widen Parker, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be talking about bike lanes. Most of us are for the bike lanes. We have no problem with that at all. But not on a street that's as narrow as Parker Avenue. And you simply can't change those statistics. My suggestion is other streets in Maplewood that are a lot wider. Let people ride their bikes. I'm not opposed to that. But why are we trying to squeeze, should I say, a fat person into a small skirt? That's exactly what you're doing when you have bike lanes on Parker Avenue. It simply does not make sense at all.
Thank you. Thank you. Next. Hi.
My name is Johanna Karp. I am also a Parker Avenue resident, and I do love bike lanes because I ride a bike all the time. And however, I don't ride on Parker. And even with a bike lane, that would make me nervous. And my biggest fear, this is like something personal, my biggest fear on a bike is falling towards the traffic
Mhm.
and somebody running me over. And there's a lot of traffic on Parker. There are also emergency vehicles. So that's why I don't think it's a good idea. I mean, I think it's great to have biking around the town. I was looking at Elmwood. That would be a great road for a bike lane because it doesn't have the traffic. You can go to the pool. You can access, I think it's Upland Road,
Mhm.
and go to the parks from downtown. And there are already bollards on Oakland and Elmwood and Prospect. So, yeah, I think that's my thought.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Good evening. My name is Jessie McGowan. I live on Boyden Parkway South. I'm here tonight to support the bike lanes on Parker Avenue. I want to thank the Township Committee and the engineer for all the work you have done to study this. I attended some of the meetings, and I feel like you really listened to the questions and came up with thoughtful answers about how we can really accommodate both the residents on the street as well as people passing through. I bike all around Maplewood. Biking is my primary mode of transportation. I'm kind of what you would call a strong and fearless cyclist, but I also now have a 2-year-old, so I don't really feel as comfortable on all of the streets with her as I would on my own. And so I think that, the bike lanes on Parker Avenue are a really important first step for Maplewood creating a safe and comfortable bike network for families. I also want to say that while this is a big step for Maplewood, it's something that's being done all around the country in a variety of different communities. So I work in transportation planning. This is kind of what I do all day. And, bike lanes are a proven safety countermeasure by the U.S. Department of Transportation, Federal Highway Administration. So this is really a safety improvement. And I think we've heard people who both support and oppose the bike lanes saying that they care about safety. This is really something that has been studied nationwide as something that will improve safety for those that want to use Parker. And so while it is, different from what we've done in Maplewood in the past, it is a really positive step forward, and I hope you all vote to approve it. So thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi, good evening. My name is Nick Vitale. I live on Parker Avenue. So when I first heard a bike lane network, I'm very excited about it. I think it's a great idea. I also am all for slowing traffic and increasing safety on Parker Avenue and other places in the town. But I want you to imagine that you buy a house, you are under the understanding that this is, you know, there's a certain aesthetic on your street, certain curb appeal. There's, you know, parking available for guests if you have guests over. There's parking for contractors and landscapers. And then somebody says, actually, no, we're taking that away from you. And we're going to change the character of your street by installing bike lanes and bollards. And I'll say, like, I've seen the bollards on Prospect. I do not like them. I think they're an eyesore. If they save lives, you know, I guess that's a trade-off, you know, like I like something looking a little worse because it saves lives, fine. I just think that this plan could be thought out a little bit better, and I think it could have a little more understanding and empathy related to the different stakeholders. It feels like this plan was made by someone who studies traffic patterns. There's certain things that they had in mind when they made this, but I don't think they totally understand needs and values and like what's important to people who actually live on the street. And so I think we need to like do an assessment of that, think about that. Feels to me that, you know, I'm paying taxes for certain things I expect in my town, and now that those things are being taken away, and it feels, you know, I worry about my property value. I worry about the curb appeal. I certainly probably would not have bought the house if I knew, you know, there was going to be a bike lane installed in front with bollards. So that's what I'd like to say.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Hi.
My name is Becky,
I'm Eric.
and we live on Parker Avenue also. We're here to support the bike lanes and most importantly, the traffic calming measures on Parker Avenue. Cross that road to get to Borden Park, like all the time, many times a week. And also we're the family that, we have 2 young daughters that age. And we're the family that a car sped into our yard and into our flower garden and basically jumped over the bricks in the back of it. That's the flower garden that I have been in many times with my 2 daughters. So just the thought of that and crossing the road, I'm afraid to even let them cross. You know, I don't know when I would even feel comfortable with them ever crossing Parker on their own.
Yeah, and as she said, and as Beth said, the intersection of Orchard and Parker had the bad accident a couple years ago, and we had some footage for Vic, and you were there Saturday morning right away. And I think we were kind of hoping, you know, I know you guys did a plan that they would maybe get a 4-way stop there because we felt like it was just too dangerous. People speed through it. And what happened is you know, some improvements, but there's a double blinking light on Parker where there's no stop sign, and on Orchard, there's 2 blinking red lights where there is a stop sign. And, you know, I think I have noticed that it has calmed traffic, I think only because it confuses people. Honestly, but the one thing that I noticed is it doesn't do anything for cars to see pedestrians. I still have to, I mean, I wait for so long every time we cross the street and I see people on their phones, you know, and, you know, I take a left there to go home and I see people, they live and pass me on the left. Sometimes people are so impatient. And, you know, this all makes me think of, I was listening to this interview, I'll paraphrase, but the originators of this Vision Zero project, which started in Sweden in the 90s, which is a project, you know, like let's get to 0 pedestrian injuries or deaths.
Right.
That Las Cias have modeled their stuff after. And they said, you know, how did you guys achieve Vision Zero? And he was like, it's so simple. You see something happen at an intersection and your only thought is, how do we make this the most safe for pedestrians? Like, end of story. No other considerations, especially for cars. And I kind of lump the bikes and the pedestrians into that same thing because the cars should be more aware of non-cars, you know, every other people moving around. And so I know you guys in the plan, there's it's a tough thing because there's the businesses in between Boyden and Orchard and you have to accommodate parking and this and that. But I guess that really resonated with me, the whole, like, the most important thing is pedestrian safety and there should be no compromise when it comes to all these decisions we're making. So
Yeah. And I don't know if he's here tonight, but I think what really got me to speak tonight was there was a kid named Max, a high school student that spoke on the online thing. And I think that's why we're doing this, is for kids to get to school. You know, I mean, there's lots of other reasons too, but I mean, I was like, how can we say no to people like this? They just want to get to school safe, you know?
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you.
Hi.
You can raise it so you don't have to bend over like
Yeah.
that. There you go. You may have to bend over a little bit. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Liam. I was a recent graduate of Columbia, well, 2019, recent enough, who throughout my time there, I really wished to be able to use a bike. But often I would have to resort to using like either my skateboard on the sidewalk or getting a ride, which didn't really feel that useful or needed at all since I just live a couple blocks away from Parker. Currently, it seems like the only people who can ride bikes in Maplewood are the experienced few. And though I don't currently bike on places like Parker with like great frequency, I think that we need places like Parker to be bikeable because currently it's not efficient in the slightest if you have to use all these side streets when Parker is the main thoroughfare and the place that gets you to places like Valley or like Columbia High School, places that students and others need to get to. If you're a high school student, for instance, you don't want to be bound to your parents who have to drive you places. You want to have the sense of freedom, which here unfortunately means that you have to get a car. And that by doing things like bike lanes, it gives both students and younger people who are often novice cyclists more ability to actually use bike lanes. And it also gives the parents more comfort to let their children go out and be on their own using bikes. And I think that's it. I think that it's for, we should have the bike lanes. There's enough people who want to use them and would use them, granted that they're there. I think the argument that the reason that there's no people who use them and therefore there won't be is kind of misfounded, that upon their arrival, I mean, people such as myself and my family will use them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hi. Good evening.
My name is Carmen Morales, and I live on Parker, one block up from Columbia. I am here to voice the concerns of almost a dozen households between Parker and Valley that vigorously oppose bike lanes on our street. We are not opposed to bike lanes in general, and we support safety and traffic calming measures. However, to install them on one of the busiest streets in Maplewood, which also happens to feed many other highly trafficked streets like Valley, Prospect, Boyden, and Irvington, is impractical and may create dangerous conditions for bicyclists, pedestrians, and drivers. Much of Parker Avenue is narrow, and there are areas with steep downhills, especially as you approach Parker and Prospect, heading towards Valley. Cars and bicycles also speed up. I've almost hit a few bicyclists because they come out of nowhere and all of a sudden they're right in front of your bumper. This thoroughfare is used daily by large vehicles such as delivery trucks, tractor trailers, sanitation trucks, landscaping vehicles, school buses, fire trucks, police vehicles. The combination of these vehicles, narrow streets, bicyclists, and vehicular traffic present many risks and liabilities to this. Emergency vehicles often take Parker when responding to emergencies. Narrow streets and bike lanes will force them to slow down, resulting in slower response time. And as you know, in an emergency, every minute counts. The Columbia High School location where we are located is especially problematic. We can't get out of our driveways in the morning. since it gets very congested during school drop-off and at rush hour. We fear that the proposals to create a drop-off plan on Academy and Valley will result in parents dropping off students closer to Prospect on our block and going onto the side streets to avoid the drop-off queue. Right now, we see them turning, making you. What's the parking plan when CHS has an event like the play, open school nights, or any other event that requires street parking near the school? What about the ethical society? What about the synagogue on the corner? Residents near Columbia High School already have a very difficult time getting out of their driveway due to traffic converging into these 2 blocks from many roads. And contrary to comments made at the meetings, and I don't know where they got the stats from, Parker Avenue residents see very little bicycle and bicycle activity on their streets. Only the most experienced bikers would use these lanes, and even they sometimes walk their bikes up the hill. I, as a parent, would not allow my child to go down such a dangerous street. You know what? The street does belong to everyone. Parker Avenue residents should have the same access as other residents to street parking. We bought our houses with these parking restrictions, and any realtor will tell you that allowing street parking at any time would be a big deal breaker.
Thank you.
Provide family members, especially those with young children, caregivers for adults, and complicate family gatherings. These homes are less accessible to disabilities, to older adults. Improving parking on the side streets will not resolve this issue. It will require the most vulnerable street to have to walk a distance and increment that.
Ms. Morales. Ms. Morales, the time is up for this.
The residents and everyone else that needs.
Thank you. Thank you. I think it's pretty clear that, go ahead, come on up. I was just going to say, we've spent many hours considering many aspects of this. So I just want to make that clear, and we'll be talking about it some more tonight. We've had several public meetings. This is not something we haven't thought about. So we're just taking everybody's comments so we can all consider them as well. So your turn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is David Acevedo. I'm also a Parker Avenue resident. I've lived on Parker Avenue for 30 years. I think it's great that we're getting so many different viewpoints here regarding these bike lanes. I mean, this is democracy at work.
Correct.
Which is a breath of fresh air these days. However, I'd like the committee to consider the disproportionate impact that these bike lanes will have on the Parker Avenue residents. I'm not anti-bike. I agree with some of the comments that have been made here by people in favor of the bike lanes. Parker Avenue can be a dangerous street. People drive very fast on Parker Avenue. But we, as Parker Avenue residents, and I understand that the street is not ours. That's not where the analysis ends. That's where it starts. We are being asked to bear an unfair burden. As folks have said before me, we have contractors who come, landscapers who come, visitors, and they are not going to be able to park in front of our streets. And honestly, I've heard the statistics that bike lanes somehow reduce traffic. Perhaps they do. I have a different feeling. I don't think that these bike lanes are going to change driver behavior. I just think that's a fact. We all drive and we see how people act on the road, how selfish they can be, how they think they can make that yellow light, how they think they can, drive around people because they need to get to where they're going. So I would implore this committee to consider making concessions for those of us who live on Parker Avenue, whether it's limiting the bike lanes only for certain parts of the day, allowing us to park on the street, or, and this might have an adverse impact on the people who live on the side streets, allowing for permit parking for those of us who live on Parker Avenue who need to park on the street during the hours that these bike lanes are being used. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hi.
Hi there. My name is Matt Clausen. I'm a Maplewood resident of just a couple years for this fall. It's been a great town to me, and I just wanted to say a few words. I wanted to ask the committee to stand up for safe streets, to keep all cyclists safe, but especially our children who deserve a way to exercise their autonomy without fear of being hit by a car or riding in traffic. I'd ask that you stand up for a healthy community that values alternative modes of transit that don't clog up our local streets and our air and our parking lots. I'd ask you to stand up for the proven method of calming traffic by narrowing lanes. It's not the bike lanes itself, it's the narrow lanes and the psychological impact that has on drivers. But I'd also like to say, let's show our concerned neighbors that we can not only imagine a better world, but deliver on that vision by starting with our local community. We can overcome the challenges posed by this proposed change. The first step is to trust the expert advice and the broad body of evidence that shows the strategies outlined in the plan are effective. We have a problem in our society of not trusting experts, and I think if we think back to the past 5 years, the past 10 years, we see where that's gotten us in our nation. Let's try and address it locally. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hello, my name is Scott. I live on Briarcliff Court, which is, for those who aren't familiar, a cul-de-sac off of Parker, very close to the Parker-Boyden intersection. I graduated from Columbia High School a few years ago, and the entire time I was a student there, I biked to and from school. From CHS to Briarcliff is almost the entire length of the proposed bike lane, so I consider myself very familiar with the current experience of biking on Parker Ave. And as you already know, I'm only one of many, many students who bike to CHS. My reason for speaking tonight, the main point that I hope you and some other folks here will keep in mind, is that people are already riding bikes on Parker Avenue and will continue to, whether or not there's a bike lane there. I've heard the safety concerns of the folks gathered here tonight, but I don't think we should let perfect be the enemy of good. And I've attended the virtual meetings as well. Some people seem surprised that leaf and snow piles and delivery trucks wouldn't change. Is that the current situation with the plan? The leaf and snow piles won't change? But like I've said, students bike there every day, and we make do with those obstacles, with the emergency vehicles and delivery trucks and all of that. And houses closer to my end of Parker Avenue are pretty far away from the high school. And currently, a lot of those kids walk. Now, I think biking is a great way to get around and go to school, and that the town should be encouraging it, especially for those more distant neighborhoods. And I am frankly confounded at the fact that some people with those red signs on Parker, would make that the position that bike lanes would make existing cyclists less safe, not more. That, to me, seems like the same logic as saying, wow, this intersection is really dangerous for pedestrians, but we would only be putting them in more danger by adding crosswalks. Because I want to reiterate, if you decide to not add bike lanes, I am going to be one of many Maplewood residents who continue to bike on Parker in the exact same narrow strip on the side of the road where the bike lanes would have been. And we would have missed a major opportunity to make those residents' lives slightly safer. In Maplewood, we think of ourselves as a progressive town, but here we have a rare chance to take a substantive step toward a greener, safer, more equitable society, and we don't want to miss that chance. Now, I have to admit, I did not spend all 4 years of high school at CHS. In my junior year, I was an exchange student in France, where I also biked to school, and where there was a bike lane designed for students in mind. Now, guess which commute was safer? People here have already talked about the statistics that show that bike lanes make the road safer. I'm almost done, I promise.
Okay.
So I won't go into those statistics. I will just finish by saying that these Parker Avenue families with their red signs are a very loud and well-organized minority, by which I mean to say they do not represent the majority opinion on this issue. Their position certainly does not reflect the opinions of the people that bike lanes would affect the most: frequent cyclists and Columbia High School students. Now, I urge all of you, do not be intimidated and go forward, vote yes on this plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm Tony Bear. I live in Burnett Terrace, a few blocks away. And I really thank you for the opportunity to have a chance to, that you're having a chance to listen to the opinions of the community. I found the last speaker, I found his basically what he was talking about was very compelling. I should say that I was the person I wrote to you folks about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I am an experienced bicyclist. I biked 1,800 miles last year. I just came back from a bike trip to Portugal, had a great time.
Nice.
I love bike lanes. However, a couple things. I think there's a different path to get to the solution to what you're asking for. And I think what you're asking for is very important. We need to have a safe way to bike to Columbia High School. The fact is that road safety, safety on Parker Avenue, and bike lanes are not synonymous. The fact is there is the reality that no matter if you put a bike lane there, you can't change the reality that this road has very heavy traffic. It's a cross-town route. You're not going to change that unless you reroute traffic onto side streets. It is very narrow. I, as a bicyclist, would, even if you put a bike lane up there, I would not go near Parker Avenue. There is an alternative solution. There are streets that are parallel to it. More specifically, Elmwood Avenue has next to no traffic. It's probably about as wide, or if not wider than Parker. And then to get across town, you can then dogleg down Prospect, which has a very wide bike lane, or has a very wide shoulder, and then go on to Oakland Road. And then to get to Columbia High School, you can go up North Terrace. So therefore, Columbia students would have a safe path to get to, to get to the high school. The other problem is that I also see a safety problem at the high school on Parker Avenue, because at that point, Parker Avenue goes downhill. As you're an experienced bicyclist, if you're an experienced bicyclist, you will basically put on your brakes. I'm afraid that when you open this up, you'll get also bicyclists who are not as skilled, not as experienced. They may not put on the brakes soon enough. And basically, you have a lot of pedestrian traffic there. And the thing is that a pedestrian can hear a car coming. They cannot hear a bike coming. Believe me, my wife basically got hit by a silent bike in Barcelona a couple years ago. So I ask that we consider that we try and make Maplewood bike friendly. We put bike lanes, but in the right places. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jose Fuentes. I'm a Parker Avenue resident for 20 years. I live near the intersection of Boyden. No one here is advocating for unsafe roads for cyclists. Or Parker Avenue is just too narrow a street for this project. I've heard my neighbors state that the road is very dangerous right now. If it is so dangerous, where have the police been? Why aren't they patrolling more? What are they doing to mitigate all these dangers? I don't think bike lanes on Parker are a good idea. Take them to Elmwood, or maybe take them on a scenic route around town. Okay, but Parker Avenue is just too narrow for this. So vote no for this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy spring. My name is Craig Miller, live on 502 Prospect Street, 3 houses in from the Ethical Culture Society. I didn't think we'd be talking about democracy tonight, but that's on everybody's mind. Being a really good elected representative in a town like Maplewood, which has so many engaged citizens, is really hard. It's really hard because people want more than just the headline of bike lanes. I think 95% of our neighbors are in favor of encouraging safe bicycling. People who are speaking against it are generally concerned about the corollary costs of it. And parking is the main concern. Taking up the space in front of it is the main concern, which differentiates Maplewood from New York City because it's narrow. So in prior meetings, there's been a lot of discussion about how the Township Committee can and will study how to accommodate both safe, effective bike lanes and the concerns of the Maplewood Jewish Center, the concerns of the Ethical Culture Society, the concerns of disabled people, the concerns of people who are renovating their house, the concerns of people who see cars turn. The general consensus is that bike lanes are safe. So I encourage you to actually dig in, do the hard work, look at the permitting on side streets, look at time limited alternatives, as one of the speakers said, other creative ways of accommodating the people who are using the streets versus the people who live on the streets. I believe it's hard work, but if you go beyond just the headline of we did bike lanes, it could be achieved to 85% satisfaction. And I hope you will actually do that, not just talk about it. One last perspective, which I'm surprised nobody has raised. The township has put out a very nice concept network that this is just the first of a network of streets. And I applaud thinking big. So this is in some sense a laboratory for dealing with the issues. The sorts of issues people are raising on Parker are going to be similar to the issues that our neighbors on other streets raise. So I urge you to not say there are only 22 people who spoke against it. There are only 22 people who spoke against it because notice was only given specifically to people on Parker. There was general notice in websites, et cetera, but this is being divided. I encourage you to look at the big picture. This is not something that could easily be reversed. It is expensive. It's $270,000 just for Parker. So extrapolating to the whole town, I'd wonder if the cost is going to be the 4 million or so that comes from linear extrapolation. So I encourage you to do the hard work, come up with the plan that deals with the hard
Understood.
things. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig.
Sorry for going.
Hi, my name is Kelly. I live a couple of houses off of Parker. I have 2 young children, and I want to thank you for bringing traffic calming measures to Parker Avenue. I disagree with some of the dissidents that Parker Avenue is the wrong street. I think it's the perfect street for this. Parker Avenue is dangerous. It is very dangerous. My kids see accidents. They hear children scream. My young kids have witnessed this on a street that they only live a few houses off of. Parker Avenue has a high school. It has nearby an elementary school. It has at least 2 preschools that I know of. It has a cultural center. It has communities of worship. It connects to the only greenway that Maplewood has. It is an artery to get into downtown. This is the street that needs traffic calming measures. This street has families living on it. It has wide enough roads. The data has shown that Parker Avenue is not too wide. If we narrow it, it makes it safer. The data says that. And your experience says that too on Prospect in Oakland, where a middle schooler was hit and we went in, or Maplewood, thank you, went in and put in the narrowing at that intersection, and people slowed down because it's narrower. Parker Avenue is dangerous because it's wide. If we narrow it, it'll become safer, and I'm thrilled that it's going to be potentially bike lanes. That is the traffic calming measure here. We love to bike. I don't bike Parker because it's scary. But I bike in bike lanes like I did when I lived in Oregon, when I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina, when I lived in New York. but I won't bike on a scary, dangerous road. I will bike on a road that has bike lanes and is narrow. So thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
I'm Walter Friedman. I live on Parker Avenue. I've lived there for about 19 years. The first thing that hit me when I heard about this was why, because I live there. Not many people ride their bikes on Parker Avenue. I think the number was 200 to 300 a week, so maybe 30 a day. I would say 20 of them are maybe the high schoolers. I mean, it's a very steep hill. It doesn't really it takes you to other towns. It's just, I don't think a bike lane is going to increase traffic that much because it's a hill and because it's still going to be a road that people drive too quickly on. So I don't think the argument is really, I think everyone would love there to be bike lanes and safe bike places for bikers. I think the decision to choose Parker Avenue is the one that should be discussed. I think there are better alternatives that are flatter, that take you, like Elmwood, that takes you to the pool, or roads that go across to South Orange, Fairview. There are flat roads that I just think you would get a lot more bike traffic on. So I have personal interests, against it, but I think even if you look at it from an objective point of view, it's a great idea, but I just think the wrong street was chosen for it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Jody Lee Drafta. I'm speaking as both a cyclist and a Parker resident. I do agree that it would really behoove the whole project to look at other possible streets than Prospect. Than Parker. And also, there's something that I just wanted to point out. For people who live on Parker, not everyone has room in their driveway to turn their car around and face the street. So when I think about, let's say this project, it goes to the increasing the traffic, increasing the bike traffic, certainly it's pretty difficult to back your car out into kind of now two distinct lanes of traffic, the bikes and the cars. So that's just sort of an added thing that you only experience if you actually live there and don't have a driveway that you can turn around in, but it's important. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, we are not here to speak. We don't live on Parker Avenue. So but we do ride bikes. But we appreciate your hearing us this evening on behalf of the resolution to support the Immigrant Trust Act, which is now languishing in the New Jersey legislature. This is Cynthia Galeota. I'm Susan Verchek. We're co-chairs of the Immigration Committee for SOMA Action. Under this governor, the New Jersey Attorney General has directed that police and local agencies use their resources to serve the public and keep all New Jerseyans safe. The directive simply recognizes due process protections for all New Jerseyans. The directive also means that it is the job of the federal government, not local authorities, to enforce immigration law. In a 60-page decision, the New Jersey Supreme Court several years ago rejected wide-ranging challenges to the Attorney General's directive, except for a single narrow point addressing promissory estoppel, which I'm a lawyer and I don't even understand. It's not relevant to this issue. The Immigrant Trust Act would codify or make into the law of New Jersey the Attorney General's directive. We need this law because a different Attorney General may reject the directive. We also need this law because the interim U.S. Attorney for the District of New Jersey has announced an investigation of Governor Murphy and Attorney General Plotkin because they are enforcing the Attorney General directive. Sadly, the representatives, the Democratic legislative leaders, but not the representatives in our district, are afraid to stand up for our immigrant neighbors. These lawmakers need to hear from individuals and communities like ours who do stand up for our neighbors. Most of us are here today because our parents and grandparents fled misery to find better lives in freedom with their children. Indeed, Ellis Island, in the shadow of the Statue of Liberty, stands in New Jersey waters. New Jersey must and should be a bulwark against unlawful attacks on immigrants.
Hi. We have reached a crisis point in New Jersey and in this country as fundamental human rights are eroded and dismantled. The Immigrant Trust Act provides critical protection for fellow New Jerseyans who face danger and fear as they try to go about their daily lives. As Susan said, the Immigrant Trust Act ensures that local and state resources would support local and state priorities, not the current federal immigration agenda. The ITA will protect personal information by limiting circumstances under which public agencies can collect information related to immigration status. It will allow people to feel safer knowing that public schools, libraries, hospitals, and shelters will not share or collect immigration status unless strictly necessary. And very importantly, it will prohibit state and local law enforcement from cooperating with federal immigration authorities when doing so is voluntary under the law. I believe the ITA is New Jersey's best protection against assaults on our communities. The detention center at Delaney Hall in Newark and the proposed conversion of a county jail in Elizabeth to another detention facility underscores the need to codify current protections into state law. The possible opening of these new detention centers, 1,000 beds each, will only embolden federal immigration authorities to fill vacant beds. These are profit-making, family-breaking machines. The Immigrant Trust Directive, which is currently policy but not law, does affirm that people of New Jersey should not live in a state where people are afraid to seek public education or medical care or report a crime or stand up for rights at work or feel they or their loved ones no longer have a home here. We need to codify these values so a future administration cannot reverse them, as the Trump administration has done on a federal level. Recent polling shows that most people do support border security, but do not support measures to sweep law-abiding people off the streets, including undocumented individuals. New Jersey must meet this epic moment, and we must join the growing number of towns in this state, urban, suburban, north and south, in red and blue counties, who choose to protect the rights of all who live here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You just shortened my report, which is awesome.
Well
Hel-
said. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Max Kravitz, Maplewood resident on Broadview. Like before I get into what I was going to say, I just want to say I completely agree with their sentiment. It's really important that we have a discussion about like immigration and detention centers, especially with the Trump administration's recent actions of deporting people who were lawfully here to high security prisons in El Salvador, especially when now that they wrongfully deported someone, they're saying they're not going to get that person back. That's something that we have to we have to rise up, but we have to understand that this is what they're doing. Not even 50, like I don't think it's even been 50 days into the administration. Like it's more stuff like among that vein is going to happen, and it's just going to get worse and worse. But I just wanted to say that because like I thank you guys for saying what you said. But I also am here in favor of bike lanes, especially on Parker Avenue. One thing that I think about is like, what type of town do we want to live in? Do we want to live in a town that you need a car to get around, that is kind of just, you're disconnected from the world? Do we want a town that is safe to get around, walking, biking, scootering, skateboarding, whatever? I lived in Tennessee for about a year, and I lived in a part of Tennessee which was very inaccessible to like other types of transit. So it was only cars. And that kind of sucked. That wasn't a good life experience really, because it was just hard to connect with people, hard to connect with your environment around you. And so, yeah, like that's just what's on my mind, having lived in a place that isn't as pedestrian biker friendly as Maplewood. And just like something that I think about is, what can you tolerate? Could you tolerate like slower, like driving slower on Parker? Can you tolerate losing a loved one due to an accident, due to a unsafe driver on Parker? That's just something that I think is very important for people to think about. And it also is important to acknowledge that these bike lanes will change the makeup of just Parker Avenue and the experience that the residents of Parker have and the value of their property and their experience with that property. So someone previously mentioned just having creative solutions. So just one thought I had was maybe we could do a bike lane on one side of the street on Parker, then that could be like a one-way up or a one-way down. Then on Elmwood, there could be a one side of the street bike lane that's the opposite, just because we want to have a bike lane and we also probably don't want to get rid of the parking that people have in front of their houses. That might be a nice compromise that would kind of make it easier for these residents to come to terms with the fact that we need bike lanes in this town, and they live on one of the most traversed, like busiest streets, and we kind of need one right there. And then another thing is just, I think there are other ways that we can make transportation safer, like expanding services offered by the Jitney to residents who don't just commute, but also want to just get around town. So instead of driving around town, they may take that. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
I had a stroke. I'll go fast, real quick. Parking on, we got a sheet the day before parking was ready to go. And they said you won't be able to park your cars on the street. There'll be, if you have a company that's doing business, like we spend about $10,000 a year on both our properties getting fixed and cleaned. That's going to be gone. Those guys have to park around the corner. There's going to be no parking in the street because if you have leaves and whatnot at the curb, you can't have your car out there. There's no parking within snow. They say if you have snow, you can't put your snow out there. 98% of the people that I've been talking to on Parker Avenue, nobody wants a bike lane. It's too much of us to be working with. Sorry, I'm trying to read this. Swinging signs with the, well, that's it for now. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. Miriam, are there people online? 8? Okay, go ahead.
Hi there. Hi, everyone. My name is Erin Potter. I live at 47 Parker Avenue, just up the street from the high school. And I just want to say thank you for hearing us out tonight. I appreciate the time. I also want to say that I am personally in favor of biking and walking and bike lanes and safety. But one thing I am concerned about that I don't think has been raised yet tonight and in some of the other town meetings is people who might rely on street parking from time to time because they have physical disabilities, or it's just physically easier for them to get in and out of a car on the street as opposed to in their driveway for whatever reason that might be. I am one of those people. I have an autoimmune disease that causes me to be unable to use my arms and legs at times. And when that happens, it's easier for me to get on into my car from the street as opposed to my driveway, which slopes. And if you're asking us to not park on the street, but you can go park down on a side street, I may not always be able to do that. So I just wanted to raise that. I am not alone. I know other people have physical disabilities, and I just want to raise that as something and ask you to consider that as a part of this plan so that we can all enjoy our streets and biking and live a happy life. So just thank you.
Thank you very much. Hi.
Hi, good evening. My name is Teddy Oblonsky. I was raised in South Orange. I went to CHS, graduated in 2019. So I have a lot of experience being in this community, car, pedestrian, bicycle, going to many different places and trying to access it and appreciate everything it has. I'll just briefly say that my experience living in this town and living in cities is that a street with a bike lane is far more accessible just to pedestrians, to say nothing of bikes. Just for the traffic calming alone, this will be a massive improvement. And I think that's incredibly important. It's an experiment, but we need to see some form of experimentation with bike lanes in Maplewood and South Orange. And I think that this is a great first step. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone online who would like to speak during public?
Any members of the public joining us via Zoom like to speak on agenda items only, please raise your hand. Moving Jonathan Poor to panelist.
Hello, this is Jonathan Poor. I've been waiting for this to happen for 30 years, so this is great. I'm a big cyclist, like some of the other people have mentioned. I've been on all kinds of committees, studies, and I commend the Township Committee for taking the initiative here. I think what we're doing here is we're looking to the future and looking for a town where there's it's not necessary to have so many cars or such big cars. There's all sorts of new electric bikes and things that people are using to get their kids around. I think this is all positive, and I applaud you for taking the initiative. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Poor. Anyone else online?
Moving Kelly Quirk to panelist.
Hi, my name is Kelly Quirk. I live at 152 Parker Avenue with my husband and my 3 kids, my kids who ride in the Seth Boyden bike bus on Friday mornings. I just wanted to say we are a Parker Avenue family who's very pro bike lanes on Parker Avenue. My family, when they come and visit, they do not park on Parker Avenue. They park on side streets because it's not safe. It's not wide enough road really for parking. So that's already been something that's happening. But I wanted to talk for a minute about what it's like to leave my driveway every morning when I take my middle schooler to school. When I bring my middle schooler to school, I'm there at the same time if kids are riding their bikes to Clinton and kids are riding their bikes to Columbia High School. And it takes me a while to get out of my driveway, and that's fine. I know I have to build in the time because there's a lot of folks getting around. The other thing I wanted to say is I grew up in New Jersey, and when I moved back here after college, I was hit by a car crossing the street. So I was a pedestrian who was hit by a vehicle. That changed my perspective on traffic calming, on traffic safety. I think someone earlier talked about Vision Zero. Once you have been hit by a vehicle, becomes jittery. It's hard for me to ride a bike. It's hard for me sometimes to cross streets. I'm very conservative because of that experience. But I also read all the literature. I read your traffic calming study. I'm so excited that you got an engineer and a traffic engineer to look at this, because I think that time and time again, it's shown if you narrow the roads, which is what we're talking about, and the only way to narrow the roads is to ban parking, to be perfectly honest. And if you can do that with bike lanes, what a wonderful gift for the rest of the community. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Quirk.
Moving Rebecca Gannon to panelist.
Moving what? Who?
Rebecca Gannon.
Hello. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. I've not done this before on Zoom. My name is Rebecca Gannon. I live off of Parker on Prospect. Parker is a dangerous road, and admittedly, we are getting a much more congested area just because, I mean, Maplewood's a great town. We have a train line. People do have to walk and ride bikes. And I do think traffic calming measures are a good idea. I am concerned about how tight narrow and just congested Parker Avenue is, especially around the high school area. Being on Prospect near Parker, I've seen a lot of accidents happen. Everyone is always rushing. Admittedly, everyone and has had moments where they have been rushing themselves to get somewhere, and that just increased the risks of everyone around them getting hurt. Seeing how narrow the proposed Parker is, and 10-foot wide drive lanes, 5-6 foot wide bicycle lanes without any sort of barrier in between. I think that needs to be given some more consideration. It's tight. There's no doubt about it. Cars are not getting smaller, though frankly they should. People are not slowing down. Frankly, they should. But I do think that there needs to be much more discussion and consideration, not only on the cost impacts, because everything's getting more expensive and we do need to be able to focus on safety. We need to be able to focus on our schools and giving children educations, but we also need to be able to make sure that the kids can get to school. So while bike lanes could ensure that the kids get to school, I also am concerned that the bike lane locations on Parker, the risk of a child getting hurt in a bike lane is higher than a child on a sidewalk, because the sidewalk has a buffer and a curb in between. A bike lane does not, based on the plans presented. So I appreciate your time. I just hope that the conversation continues and decisions aren't made just yet. Having traffic engineers are good to be involved, but I don't believe that Parker, in my opinion, is best street choice for this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving Adrienne Misko to panelists. Please unmute yourself.
Hi, this is Adrienne. I live on 634 Valley Street, and progress often requires small compromises in service of the greater good. And in this case, adding bike lanes to Parker Avenue means asking a small number of residents to give up rarely used on-street parking, but in return, we get a safer, more connected, and healthier Maplewood. That requires participation from the whole community. Right now, there's very little asked of drivers in town, while pedestrians and cyclists take on the greater risks. That imbalance has to change, and it has to start somewhere. Parker Avenue is already used by cyclists of all ages, but without a designated space, they're forced to navigate narrow, shared lanes with cars. This creates unnecessary risk and discourages people, especially families and kids, from biking for everyday trips. Adding bike lanes changes that. It tells drivers, expect bikes here, and gives cyclists a predictable, protected space to ride. These bike lanes are part of a bigger vision, one where our kids can bike to school, our neighbors can ride to the train station or the park, and fewer cars on the road mean cleaner air and quieter streets. In truth, the narrow lanes, parked cars, and lack of speed enforcement already make biking risky. The bike lanes won't create new problems, they'll solve ones that already exist. And to be honest, the Township Committee has taken on tougher issues before and done a great job. This isn't about bikes, it's about making Parker Avenue and Maplewood a better, safer place for everybody. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Perez.
Moving Martin Saperli to panelists. Please unmute yourself, Mr. Saperli.
Hi, my name is Martin Sepperly. I've been a resident of Parker Avenue for 14 years. I'm a dad of 3 and a former member of the Maplewood Democratic Committee and the Maplewood Green Team. Every morning when I eat breakfast, I see students biking, walking, and scooting to school on Parker. I see delivery workers riding bikes at all hours of the day. It's a unique road that it's the only direct route to our high school. It's the great connector, providing direct connection all the way from Irvington to Maplewood Avenue. It's really one of the backbones of our town. Last year, I founded the Seth Boyden Bike Bus and co-founded Soma Bike Bus with other Soma parents. We've grown into a community organization with over 300 Soma families who bike to school together to 5 elementary schools every week. By biking together to school, we foster community, we bring joy to our streets, and we energize students before school. We teach students biking skills that make them more healthy, safe, and independent, skills that they'll carry with them through their life. Bike Bus provides social infrastructure for families to bike to school together safely, using safety in numbers, because the town has, up to this point, failed to provide any physical infrastructure aside from bike parking. I first spoke to the TC 2 years ago in 23, when yet another child was hit by a car while biking to school on Parker. This came after my family witnessed more car crashes on Parker than I can count. This came after a car landed on our front lawn. You know it's not a safe road when hearing the sound of a honk followed by crunching steel from your backyard barbecue becomes a commonplace occurrence. Since then, there have been even more incidents of traffic violence on Parker and neighboring streets. I witnessed my neighbor getting hit crossing the road in a crosswalk in front of my house. Roads in town are public property. They're paid for by every taxpayer in Maplewood, and they have a purpose to safely provide circulation to all Maplewood residents and visitors, those who walk, bike, and drive. The Township Committee often has to make tough decisions for the long-term benefit of the town and all of its residents. These decisions are not without healthy debate. We saw with the plastic bag ban and the gas leaf blower ban that the town is not scared to make bold decisions to improve the quality of life in Maplewood. This issue is no different. We elect the Township Committee democratically to represent all residents of Maplewood, and we entrust them with putting our public property, like our roads, to their highest and best use. I'm in full support of the bike lane proposal on Parker Avenue, not as a Parker Avenue resident, but as a father who wants their kids and every kid in Soma to be able to bike to school safely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving Megan Gosling to panelist.
Hello, thank you. My name is Megan Gosling and I live about 5 houses off of Parker on Coolidge Road. And I kind of just want to say ditto to what Adrian and Martin both just communicated. I think they spoke really well about the values that we're hoping our community will have of connectedness, environmental sustainability, children having the freedom to have the experience of biking around and having that autonomy and agency. We are very much in support of the bike lanes on Parker. We have 3 teens who have biked to Clinton, biked to Psalms, now biked to CHS. And they would like to be able to feel safer when they bike down Parker, especially right now, the straight shot to CHS that it is. The main concern that we have is that community members on Parker want to value their comfort or efficiency of parking or their landscapers having access to their houses over the safety of children in our community and others who want to use Parker for its connection and for its access to Columbia, to town, to the train station. Having bike lanes creates the sense of community that I think we all say that we're looking for in this town. And it shows our children that we care about them, we care about their health, we care about the environment, and we care about a community being accessible and safe for everyone. I hope the conversation can really be focused on ceding Parker to bikes and pedestrians and safety, and not ceding it to the needs of cars and driveways.
Thank you.
Moving Daniel Gosling to panelist.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Daniel Gosselink. I'm the husband of the previous speaker, so I also live 5 houses off of Parker on Coolidge. I just want to say one or two slightly different things. But just living in a house just off of Parker, we've heard the argument made that folks on the side streets will be frustrated or aggravated or annoyed by these sort of new cars being parked on the street that now can no longer on Parker. And I certainly can't speak for everybody on the side street, but I can speak for myself and anecdotally for a few of the neighbors I've spoken to. And this is not a concern for us, right? Because, you know, the homeowners on Parker, we've already acknowledged, don't own the street or the parking spot in front of their homes, nor do I, right? I'm not going to try to legislate or argue that some folks on Parker shouldn't be allowed to park on Coolidge or it's going to bother me. Right? If we're seeking to make the best community, for us, for our kids, and this bike lane is going to be a huge part of that. My 9th grade son planned on speaking this evening, but we didn't plan on speaking this late, so I'm speaking for him. But he rides his bicycle every day on Parker, from Coolidge to CHS, from Coolidge to Memorial Park for practice, into town to see his friends. And especially when he's riding to high school in the morning, he's pretty consistently concerned with being doored. Having someone open their door into him who's, you know, parked in the shoulder on the edges of Parker, especially outside of Columbia High School, narrowing that even more. And if we really are valuing our kids and their autonomy, you know, we should be encouraging them to ride their bikes and discouraging cars from sort of clogging the streets for them and not privileging the cars. So this family, this Parker adjacent family, is in full support of the bike lane. Thank you for your time.
Mayor, I move to extend the meeting past 9:30.
Moving Julia Flath to panelist.
We
Take a roll.
have to vote to move.
I motion to move the meeting past 9:30.
Mathis,
Yes.
Luca.
Yes.
Sangler, Berman.
Yes.
Mayor Adams.
Julia.
Go ahead, Mrs. Flath. You can unmute yourself.
Hi, this is Julia Flath. I'm actually with my daughter who really wants to speak tonight, so I'm gonna let her speak. Go ahead. Read what you wrote.
My name is Mira, and I live in South Orange. And I go to Clinton Elementary, where I do the bike bus, which goes on Parker. I think it would be a lot safer if it had a bike lane. Rolling up with bike lanes could encourage more people to ride on bikes to more places than in cars. It might also let more people know about bikes, so more people might learn how to ride a bike, and more people will bike.
So the last part.
Don't let cars rule the world. Give bikes a throne to.
Thank you. And I've already spoken at previous meetings in favor of the Parker Ave bike lane and traffic calmings, and echo a lot of sentiments that have already been said, so I won't take any more time. Thank you.
Being Mark McGahey to panelist. You can unmute yourself, Mr. McGahey.
Perfect. Yes. Thank you so much. Mark Gahey's here. Been in Maplewood since 2023. Father of 2 young sons who will be riding bikes to CHS in the future, I'm sure. But first and foremost, I wanted to say thank you to folks for taking time and resources to research this and bring these traffic calming measures to Maplewood. I moved my family here in 2023 from Texas. We came here for the sense of community, diversity, progression, and dare I say it, walkability. Coming from Texas, it's a huge step towards that. So it's really cool to see that potential bike lanes could be coming to our streets. To be able to access Parker safely as a cyclist would give me less pause to choosing cycling over driving around this town. And furthermore, I do feel that Parker Avenue is the right choice for a first wave of increasing traffic calming measures to our beautiful town. Everyone here agrees that people drive too fast on this road. And we've read and seen in these studies that just decreasing the width of the lanes for cars and dedicating the lane for cyclists would not only make it more safe for cyclists, pedestrians, and cars, but it would also pave the way for fewer vehicle emissions and more opportunities for activity in our town, all of which I hope to see in the future. So thank you so much for your time and for putting this all together.
Moving Susan Malsbury to panelists. Ms. Malsbury, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you so much for extending the time. I am thrilled that bike lanes are on the table to happen on Parker. I live on the corner of Parker and Ball, so I think I see both the Parker side of things and also being on a side street. From my point of view, I already see kids and adults biking, and as I've been paying attention, I see them biking more and more all the time. And so for me, just to help keep existing bikers safe would make it worthwhile. I think people seem to expect that hordes of people are going to be all of a sudden biking with bike lanes. And while I think that would be amazing, I don't think that's actually going to happen. I think it will be, people slowly starting to use them more and kind of everyone getting used to it in terms of pulling out of driveways and driving around. And I think it'll be everyone kind of learning up to how to support them if it happens. Also, as I mentioned, we do live on a corner, so we are on the side street. And in our area of Parker, I rarely see people parking on Parker, which does seem actually pretty dangerous due to the speed of cars. We have people parking on our side street all the time, and I'm happy to see it. And I'd rather they park there than on Parker. And that's about all I want to say. Thank you all for your time, and I appreciate all the research that went into this, which helped me convince that this is the right way to go. Thank you.
Moving Richard Wenner to panelists.
Hi, Rich Winter, 37 North Terrace. I was involved 30 years ago in the first bike plan that was done by RBA with the erstwhile Transportation Committee. Even back then, we had created an extensive network laid out around Maplewood, through Maplewood, but always the problem with implementation was concern about loss of parking. Leaving us only with shared lanes, which are not sufficient for making Maplewood really bike accessible. This plan is the first to seriously try to deal with that issue. I live near Parker. I understand their concerns, but I think they can be ameliorated. This plan, I believe, needs to happen for the community to make Maplewood a really bike accessible place. Thank you.
One more person. We have Aditi Varma moving over to panelists. Aditi Varma. You may unmute yourself.
Hey, everyone, this is Aditi's husband, Jay. We live on Parker Avenue. I think just about everything that could be said has been said on this topic tonight, so I'm not going to take up much time here. I do just want to say it's, obviously a congested, narrow street. We are concerned about bike lanes being instituted, especially, and I think we're pro bike. We love the idea of keeping traffic down and uh, our streets and kids generally safer. But for those of us who live on the street, especially our part of the street, even for example, at nighttime, it's not particularly well lit. I don't think that's an issue that's been raised tonight, and I am concerned about, um, you know, bikers who are not as experienced as some who have spoken, who will now be riding our streets, at odd hours, and what that means for those of us who know, uh, what it's like having to back out of a driveway onto the street. So I think everything's really been said on this topic. I'll give my time back, but I just wanted to raise that one point in concern for the committee to consider.
Like so. So we'll move on. If there's no more online, no more in person, we'll move to our ordinances. We have ordinances on for final passage. Sure, it's on the agenda for the discussion on the bike lanes. We'll be talking about it when we get to that discussion item, which will be after our budget presentation. So we have quite a way to go here before we get there. So we'll go to ordinances on final passage. Ms. Fritzen.
Okay, Mayor, ordinance on final passage. We're at number 8A on the agenda. Ordinance number 3144-25 is an ordinance to amend Chapter 271 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Zoning and Development Regulations with respect to the Research and Office Zoning District. This ordinance will amend Article 5 zoning provisions of Chapter 271 of the Township Code to eliminate the Research and Office RO zoning district and to include the subject property in the Highway Business HB zoning district.
Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to request a motion to table to May 6th in order to allow opportunity to provide additional notice to our neighboring municipalities. Please.
For the neighboring municipalities. Okay, understood.
I can move that.
Yeah,
I'll move that we table to May 6th.
I'll second.
On the table, Mr. Daffis,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Ms. Engel.
Yes.
Ms. Herman,
Yes.
Mayor Adams.
Yes, thank you. Next ordinance, Ms. Fritzen. 3140.
Yes, Mayor, it's item 8B, ordinance number 3148-25 is an ordinance to amend Chapter 271 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Zoning and Development Regulations with respect to uses in the commercial and industrial zoning district. This ordinance will amend Section 271-70F Township Code to add permitted and accessory uses in the commercial and industrial CI zoning district.
Mayor, this ordinance was reviewed by the planning board in accordance with the statute at its April 8th meeting. The planning board determined that the ordinance is consistent with the master plan. They did make a recommendation, which you may want to consider before moving on with the public hearing portion of the evening. The part of the ordinance would allow the addition of retail sales limited to products made on site associated with principal uses. Craft fairs, art shows, and other temporary outdoor weekend sales events associated with the principal uses would also be allowed. The planning board recommended that the township committee may wish to remove the phrase weekend to just allow craft fairs, art shows, other temporary outdoor sales events. Thinking that this would allow for sales on holidays, special occasions, et cetera. In my opinion, this would be a non-substantive amendment. If the TC wished to implement it this evening, I think we could move forward with hearing and second reading final adoption.
Okay. Thank you. This ordinance will amend, this ordinance was published. Copies posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. I'm opening the hearing. Would anyone like to speak to this ordinance? Mr. Press, is there anyone online?
Any members of the public joining us via Zoom would like to speak on this ordinance, please raise your hand. I see no hands, Mayor.
Thank you. Then I'll close the hearing, and I move this ordinance to be adopted as a whole with the amendment for the weekend, and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a past ordinance in Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
Second.
Mr. Daffis.
Yes.
Luca.
Yes.
Engel.
Yes.
Ms. Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Adams.
Yes, thank you. Next ordinance, 8C.
Yes, Mayor, we're at 8C. Ordinance number 3149-25 is an ordinance to amend Chapter 123 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Fees, Municipal Pool. The interpretive statement is that this ordinance establishes 2025 municipal pool fees.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Opening the hearing on this ordinance, is there anyone in the room who would like to speak to this ordinance? Ms. Perez, anyone online?
Any members of the public joining us via Zoom would like to speak on this ordinance, please raise your hand. I see no hands, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Then can I get a motion, Ms. Herman?
I move this ordinance to be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
I'll second. Ms. Fritzen, roll.
Mr. Daffis.
Yes.
DeLuca.
Yes.
Engel.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Adams.
Yes, thank you. Next ordinance on final, 3150-25.
Yes, Mayor. Item 8D, ordinance number 3150-25 is an ordinance to amend Section 6-25 of the Township Code entitled Recreation Advisory Committee. This ordinance amends the Recreation Advisory Committee to reflect changes in the number of committee members, promote diversity within the committee, and clarify the purposes of the committee.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Is there anyone in the room or online who would like to speak to this ordinance?
Any members of the public joining us via Zoom, if you'd like to speak on this ordinance, please raise your hand. I see no hands, Mayor.
Being none, can I get a motion, Ms. Herman?
I move this ordinance to be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
I'll second. Ms. Fritzen?
Mr. Daffis.
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca.
Yes.
Engel.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Adams.
Yes, thank you. 8E?
Final ordinance on final passage. Ordinance number 3151-25 is an ordinance to amend Chapter 72 of the Township Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Youth Advisory Committee. This ordinance will revise provisions of the Township Code with respect to the composition of the membership of the Youth Advisory Committee.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Is there anyone here who would like to speak to this ordinance? Or anyone online, raise your hand if you'd like to speak. Yeah,
I see no hands, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'd ask for a motion, Ms. Engel.
I move this ordinance to be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
I second.
Ms. Fritzen? Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Engel?
Yes.
Herman?
Yes.
Mayor Adams? Yes, thank you. We have one ordinance on for introduction.
Yes, Mayor. Item number 9A, ordinance number 3152-25 is an ordinance authorizing the township to obtain easements for stormwater facilities on certain properties on Maple Terrace and Berkeley Road in the township of Maplewood. This ordinance will authorize the township to install and maintain stormwater facilities on certain private properties located on Maple Terrace and Berkeley Road in the township of Maplewood.
And may I get a motion, Mr. DeLuca?
Mayor, I move the passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, and a hearing to be held on May 6, 2025.
I'll second. Ms. Fritzen?
Mr. Daffis?
Abstain.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Engel?
Yes.
Herman?
Yes.
Mayor Adams?
Yes, thank you. We have administrative reports. I don't know. Oh, Mr. Ware is still awake. And you're on the same time zone in
I am,
Florida. All right. Did
and
you
I have no
like
report.
to give a report tonight?
I have none other than the budget presentation, which will be in a few minutes.
Right, budget presentation. Ms. Perez, did you have anything from administration you want to add?
No, I do not, Mayor.
Okay. Any questions for our administration? All right, then we'll move on to our township attorney, Ms. Credidio.
No report, Mayor.
I hope the township committee is listening to these no report. Any questions for Ms. Credidio? Seeing none. Township clerk, you have a report.
Just one thing, Mayor. I just want to update the township committee and the public and citizens of Maplewood that we are starting to put together the annual Memorial Day Parade and ceremony. We will be using the same online participation module that we did last year that worked out really well, and progress on the event at this moment.
Okay. Any questions for our clerk's office? Being none. Thank you very much. Normally, we would go to reports from elected officials, but I'm sure they're going to be brief anyway. And then we're going to go to a presentation of our budget. And we have our CFO, Mr. Kloje. Welcome. Yeah. Mr. Weary, you're unmuted. So you
Yeah,
can.
thank you, Mayor. Mr. Kaloje will start us off on presenting the 2025 budget. First, I want to thank all of the finance staff, department heads, public and township committee who have been working on the budget since probably November. We began in earnest with this planning through department head meetings and budget workshops. So a lot goes into it. It is probably the single biggest thing we do all year as a township. About a $60 million budget impacts every resident. And so I just want to thank everybody for their participation in the project. And we are introducing tonight. And if it passes tonight, we will come back at the second meeting in May for adoption of the budget. We will also, at the next meeting, start to bring forth the capital bond ordinances for some of the capital programs in that capital portion of the budget. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Kaloje to start our presentation.
I think it's on.
It is on?
Yep. You just got to put it close.
Thank you, Mayor and Mr. Murray. We put together a PowerPoint presentation that we're going to walk you through the first half and the technical stuff, and then we'll pass it along to the man who actually puts together the budget, and he'll bring us home. So welcome to Maplewood, a little under 4 square miles, a population well over 25,000. Our total valuation of properties is at $6.2 billion. We employ 215 full-time employees, 209 part-time employees to provide the services that the community has come to expect from us. This year's budget is going to come in at roughly $59.6 million. It will be a balanced budget. That is actually a decrease of almost $1 million from last year. If we go to the next slide, obviously Maplewood continues to be a desirable town to own a home. The total value increased by $10.5 million just last year. These are the cards that we get from the county tax board. An average assessed home is moved from being just under $804,000 to just over $807,000. That speaks to the fact that people are willing to invest in their homes and see Maplewood as a great place to live. This next slide just gives us a little bit of a layout on how the assessed value moves. You can see that the big slide or spike in 2023 is based on the reval that we went through. When we did that reval, the tax rate went down so that the adjustment was cost neutral. So it wasn't a case where we increased everyone's values and then we increased their taxes as well. It stayed cost neutral and stays tied to the budgets of our town, the county, and the school district. We can see that we've been pretty steady in terms of bringing on additions and added taxes. $20 million is what we're projecting for next year. So let's go to what we had for budget drivers. The good news is we had some relief, $1.6 million worth of relief. Our pension contribution went down by almost $1.5 million. Our debt service went down by over $100,000. Unfortunately, those two happy occasions weren't enough to offset the pressures that we were experiencing. The shared service agreement for the fire department went up by $1.7 million. That is largely because they have needed to now calculate the pension costs that we lost when they were our firefighters. They're now SEFD's firefighters, and so that's our portion of the pension cost down to Trenton. Our new police contract is costing us $1.2 million this year. As everyone is aware, we lost almost $200,000 in grants for the health department, thanks to the federal government clawing that back. And we've seen our insurance costs rise by over $200,000. Yes, that would be accurate. So taking a look at the next slide in the health department grants, we can see that in 2020, when the pandemic hit, there was a strong response by government to keep citizens safe and healthy. And we got some grants that came in and were maintained throughout the pandemic. Unfortunately, as the mayor had pointed out, the federal government and the Trump administration no longer sees a value in local health. And they have significantly cut the money that we were anticipating, which was at $370,000, down to $174,000. Now, we know they took the money back, so why is there still $174,000 there? Because the federal government is honoring first quarter of this year for reimbursement, and that money also includes some of our private grants that we get from our local cannabis companies. So the next slide kind of gives us an overview of our major revenue sources. We'll start out at the bottom and cannabis licensing that came in 2021. You can see that it went up $430,000 worth of additional revenue came into the coffers. Its first full year implemented. By the second year, it had increased to $610,000. Last year, it dropped back down to $408,000, and we expect it to maintain flat as new businesses are now starting to compete. I anticipate that we will not be returning to those days of $610,000. The next is the blue line, which is for the building department. You can see that we had some healthy work that was being done within the town. And unfortunately, between 2024 and this year, we've seen a significant drop off. So that is probably a function of major projects that were going on. If we see major projects coming back into town, we'll see an increase in that revenue, at least temporarily. And then we can see from the recreation department back in 2018, they contributed roughly $320,000 a year in revenue. And now they have steadily been over $700,000 for the last 3 years. Utility costs, this gives us an idea of what we really can't manage in terms of the budget. It is what it is unless we want to close buildings and shut off lights. So these are all necessary elements of the budget that we don't have much control over. The next slide is really the reason why we put it in. You can see that the main driver has been the sanitary sewer increases that we've had to pay at the joint meeting. And the other slide is kind of a little bit of a cautionary tale for us because you can see that we budgeted in 2025 what we spent last year in 2024. And I've got a little concern about that considering there's talk about significant increases for electricity this coming year, and we may need to do some transfers come November. But I put these utility slides up because one of the biggest complaints we hear in the finance department is you guys are absolutely killing us. My electricity costs more, my cable costs more, my phone costs more. And the purpose of this slide is to say that the township is not immune to those same pressures that people are feeling as well.
Right.
Our pension obligation on the next slide shows that we went significantly down. That is a function of we no longer have to fund the firefighters. That is now fully on the back of SEFD. And that is the driver for SEFD increasing their need for more money from us. Our insurance costs are another issue that we've been dealing with. You can see that ultimately we're seeing a pretty decent spike coming up for both the health benefits and for the liability and workers' comp. If we move to debt service and the down payment for capital projects, you will see that this year we removed the down payment and we're at 0%, but we're still going to move forward with $7.5 million worth of projects. That is a function of what we did last year when we put $1.2 million into the capital improvement fund in the general trust. So now we have the ability to use that as a down payment. That $1.2 million was American Rescue Plan money that we were going to lose if we didn't spend it by last September. So it was a wise decision by the Township Committee to give us the ability to actually produce a tax break for a down payment on our projects we plan on doing this year. The next slide shows us our bond ordinances and our open space allocation. We have about $1 million that we're going to be spending in open space, and we're budgeted for roughly $7.5 million in bonds. That covers equipment, roads, parks, and other capital projects that make Maplewood such a great place to live. If we take a look at reserve for uncollected taxes, we can see that from a historical perspective, the last time we had a reval back in 2016 and 2017, we jacked up that number to $2.3 million to cover any appeals that we may be dealing with. Unfortunately, this year's budget was exceedingly tight and we didn't have that luxury. And so we're going to be going in with $1.7 million with a reserve for uncollected taxes. This is a deferred charge analysis. A lot of these decisions were made either for us or happened to us. It starts out with the COVID revenue note. Back in 2020, we had the ability to take an average of our revenues as opposed to just what we bring in cash in order to get us through the fact that everyone's revenues took a turn for the worse when everyone was in lockdown. So we are in the process of paying back that note. We still have one more year after this to do that. From the Ida storm emergency recovery, we did a $1 million note last year. The state told us that they're not going to allow us to continue to pay that out over 5 years, and they made us pay back the balance of the IRA emergency note last year. So that is now off our books. We have the mandated reval that we're going through. This is the third year of having to pay it in 2 more years. And then finally, we have the fire department's accumulated leave payout, which was part of the process of moving that over into a shared service. We still have a few more years left on that payment. The slide on the right includes, because all those descriptions were for deferred charges that are outside the cap. The slide on the right shows all our deferred charges inclusive of inside the cap. And that little zigzag that we see from 24 to 25 is our commitment to helping to fund the pool and bring down the membership fees that we were charging. And so that's why we're seeing a little bit of a bump in deferred charges for that. The next slide shows us a fund balance analysis. It's a little busy, so I apologize for that. But basically, the story on this slide is in 2018, When I first started here, we were using 80% of our surplus to balance our budget, which is obviously not sustainable thing to do. We would then have a year where we have $840,000 and school tax bills that are coming in at $5.5 million. So we were literally sort of living paycheck to paycheck. Through the years, the Township Committee has made some very difficult decisions, and you see us weaning ourselves off at 65%, 68%, then we're into the 50s, and we've now reached a point, basically because of some of the events that occurred to us, that we have a fund balance that is now fiscally sound. And here's the reason why fund balance is important. We were able to increase the amount of interest that we create through income with the money that's on hand from $41,000 in 2017 to $1.7 million last year. And that's direct property tax relief. That's not our ability to, or our need to raise taxes, because we have $1.7 million that serves as an alternate revenue source to raising taxes. The other benefit of having a healthy fund balance is that we are able to secure better interest rates when we go out for bonds and notes. And it has also given us the ability to fund our own projects, our own small projects. And those savings through the years have been about $500,000 to the taxpayers. So then, you know, because I'm your CFO and it's always doom and gloom for me, these next slides are going to deliver on that doom and gloom. Probably about 25 years ago, the state had said that it was going to be more efficient to have public utilities pay them instead of paying 564 towns individually, and that the state would then distribute that money to us as a state aid. It is the energy receipts tax is the name of it. And in the statute, when they said, we're going to now start collecting the money instead of towns, they also put in, we will increase it by the cost of living each and every year. This chart that we're looking at right now shows how they've shorted us, and it goes way back past 2018. But just since 2018, this shows us how much they've shorted us. And if they had just met their obligation, we're talking about a 4.1 tax points of additional state aid that should be coming to us. And the last slide kind of explains that the best. If we had received the money that we had been promised by statute, we would have a 0% tax increase this year in Maplewood. And unfortunately, the state had made some moves about 2 years ago and threw some extra money in. They have since, that well has since dried up, and we're back to where we've been, where CFOs say flat is the new increase. It's the new norm. I'm done complaining. Mr. Worry, I'm sure will bring you a sunnier version of our budget.
Thank you, Mr. Kloje. If you go to the next slide, start to look at some of the operating budgetary allocations for this year. We have some of the things we've already talked about, like statutory at 22% of our budget, utilities at 5.6. But we can also see the size of our departments specifically. So we see our police department at about 20% of our budget, which is typical in that they are a 24/7 operation. We see SEFD broken out at 16.5, similar 24/7 operation. Engineering and DPW taking care of all of our streets and roads and our municipal facilities, our parks coming in just over 10%. Those are our larger departments. Go to the next slide. This shows property tax allocation. So this is from all of the tax revenue that residents pay to us as the tax collector for all taxing entities. We take that money and then we keep what is the municipal portion, and then we remit to the school district, to the county, and then to the library and open space what is there. So the school district this year will account for about 56.5%, and the county for about 14%. Those numbers are estimates based on last year plus what we expect their percentage increase to be this year, but they have not yet struck their final budgets. So the municipal portion of a taxpayer's total bill comes up to about 27.5% of that bill. Next slide. And this shows our rate history. So you can see over from 2018 to present the amount of revenue we receive in taxes, or excuse me, revenue we receive from taxes. And on the right shows our municipal tax rate. Obviously, what was mentioned before, there is a sharp decrease there in 1 year as the rate was reset after the reevaluation. And the next slide, for our budgetary goals from this year, we have maintained our health department despite the loss of federal grant money. That will be an ongoing conversation. We were fortunate to have one vacant position there in a part-time administrative role that we will not be backfilling, but we were able to retain all the other positions where they were previously supported by federal grant funding. And we're working now on applying for new grant funding for some other initiatives that can support at least a portion of the salaries that were impacted by the federal cuts. But we are fortunate to have been able to maintain the majority of and the most important parts of the health department that were impacted by grants. We continue to invest in townwide tree planting. We are continuing to invest in infrastructure. The biggest thing this year was the creation of a stormwater utility to address flooding issues. The township will contribute about $325,000 to that utility for our own impervious surface. And the total utility has a budget of $800,000 that will be raised by a separate stormwater utility assessment that will be new this year. We continue this year to reduce the fees at the municipal pool. So fees again this year will decrease by 10% for those who are able to take advantage of the early bird discount and 5% for everybody else. And some other small things, we've continued to negotiate our contracts. All of our contracts were up January 1 of 2024. We have settled 4 of those contracts. We have one, the dispatchers, that is on the agenda for ratification tonight. Then we have 2 outstanding in DPW laborers and 4 persons. But through those negotiation processes, able to give salary increases that keep us competitive, but also continue to pay wages that keep pace with inflation, which we've seen increase dramatically in recent years. For the tax impact on what it means for the typical ratepayer, in 2024 versus 2025, we had the average home was paid $5,101 as their municipal portion. This year, that will go up to $5,278 just for that municipal portion. And that equates to an increase of $177 on that average home, or $14.80 per month. And next slide, I think, is the last. Yeah, so this is the overall look at our budget. We're looking to avoid over-reliance on one-time revenue, continue to use surplus at sustainable levels, maintain or improve our level of service, continue share services to reduce costs, and continue to adhere to fiscally sound best practices. Next slide. Yep, and that is it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
You're
Mayor,
welcome. Yep.
for interrupting your vacation to join us for this fun time of budget presentation. I know you had planned on it being at the last meeting, but Donald Trump's cuts to the federal budget made us have to rework some things. And, you know, that's what happens when you just slash and burn. You don't pay attention to what's going on. But I want it to be not just federal budget. I think it's important to call out who exactly is doing this to not just our municipality, but every state in the union receive these health cuts. I don't know if RFK Jr. was involved or not. I don't know who's involved. They just kind of wantonly slashing, and it's going to affect us on a local level. Same with our schools. So I just want everyone to be mindful of that. It seems so far away, but it definitely impacts us directly. Do any of my colleagues have any comments or questions on our budget you would like to say, or any questions to our CFO or administrator? And thank you for your work on this. I know it's not easy.
Great presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, I would just suggest less ink.
Oh, yeah, the black background is interesting.
Easier to see.
And remember to do double-sided, so that's.
Double side is good, but yeah,
And it was larger font too.
larger font. There we go.
I think we should release this to the public, yeah?
Oh, yeah, it'll be released to the public, correct?
Yeah.
We'll get that up on the website.
Yep, it'll be on the website.
Right. So I just want to summarize for the public one thing, because we get asked all the time, where the heck does all of our tax dollars go? So for every dollar that you pay in property taxes, 56.5 cents of that dollar goes to the school district. 14.2 cents goes to the county, and about 28 cents comes back to the municipality to do all of the things that we all need to get done, including paving our roads and the sewers and all this stuff, recreation, services, health, so on and so forth. Only 28 cents of every property tax dollar. That's it.
Okay, anybody else have anything they want to add? Okay, the fun part's over, so you have no questions, which is good, although, you know, we've all been talking about this for quite a while, as Mr. Wary alluded to. So we need a motion that's mine, right?
Yep.
So I move the adoption of resolution number 132-25, the introduction of the 2025 municipal budget. Mr. Daffis, can I have a second?
Yes, Mayor, I second your motion.
Hey, Mayor, I have a couple of statements to read as a part of that
Okay.
resolution. Section 1, municipal budget of the Township of Maplewood, County of Essex, fiscal year 2025. Be it resolved that the following statement of revenues and appropriations shall constitute the municipal budget for the year 2025. Be it further resolved that said budget will be published in the Maplewood South Orange News Record in the issue of May 1st, 2025. And that notice is hereby given that the budget and tax resolution was approved by the Township Committee at the April 15th, 2025 Township Committee meeting, and a hearing on the budget and tax resolution will be held at the Township of Maplewood on May 20th, 2025 at 7:30 p.m., at which time and place objections to said budget and tax resolution for the year 2025 may be presented by taxpayers or other interested persons. Okay, we had it moved and seconded, so now we'll take a vote. Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
DeLuca?
Yes.
Sengel?
Yes.
Herman?
Yes.
Mayor Adams?
Yes,
Thank
thank you. Mr. Wary, you don't have to stay with us, I don't think, right?
I will, but
Okay.
thank you, Mayor.
He's escaping while he can.
Okay, sorry, I should go on with this. Okay, so now we have reports from elected officials. And we'll start with Mr. Daffis.
Thanks, Mayor. Very quickly, we talked about the planning board's response to our zoning changes. Code Committee moved forward adjusted fees for zoning, rental registrations, and CCUs, which are on for discussion tonight. We're on that in a little bit. The Community Board on Police's annual report is due soon, so look out for that. Our rent leveling board is dead and we're trying to revive it. So if you're out there and you're listening, there's a lot of opportunities to volunteer in town, and they're not all about the rec department or the pool. As fun as those two things are, some of you may be interested in talking about housing issues, and particularly about affordability as it relates to rents and how they keep going up and how it's becoming increasingly difficult to stay in town and so on and so forth. So if you are a renter, a tenant, and if you are a landlord, we're looking for you. So please go to our website under volunteer opportunities and submit an application to serve on our rent leveling board. We need 5 members. We need representation by tenants and by landlords. And we need a board as soon as we can put one together, because we're looking to revise our rent control, our rent regulation ordinance, which is very outdated. It was revised, so to speak, back in 2005. There's a vacancy decontrol provision, and we assume, although we have not verified that yet, incoming on verification, on whether or not we have any units in town that are still subject to any form of rent regulation. If we do, they're very few, and it's basically like not having any rent control in this town at all. I think we all agree we gotta do better. And so we need you. We need members. We need a board to engage in conversation and data analysis to come up with a new ordinance proposal. And lastly, Mayor, our gubernatorial forum is all set for next Wednesday, April 23rd, here in Maplewood at the Woodland. Doors open at 6:30. This is an event that requires pre-registration. Registration reached capacity very quickly. We're way over 450 people at least, but we know that people sometimes don't show up. Things happen, sickness, children, work-related stuff. So there will be a standby opportunity for folks if they didn't get an opportunity to register. The forum will give opportunity to the Democrats running for governor in this election cycle to interact with the community. We have confirmed 4 of the 6. We currently have not heard back from Steve Sweeney, former Senator Sweeney, or from Congressman Gottheimer. I think they're both no's. And the forum is going to be moderated by our own Nancy Solomon, that's NPR's Nancy Solomon, with questions that were submitted by registrants during their registration. But hang on, don't worry. If you forgot to submit a question, there will be a Q&A opportunity live at the event as well. So don't worry. There, we had a great event planning meeting. Thank you to Township Clerk Fritzen for facilitating that with the organizers. And we have an operational plan in order. Thank you to the police chief and to Township administration for facilitating that. So street closures and parking restrictions are in order for that evening, and all of that will be made public. And I think we need to start putting some of those notices out. I'm looking at Township administration since we're a week away. That's my report. I'll take any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Daffis? Okay, then we'll move on to, thank you for, to Mr. DeLuca.
Thank you, Mayor. Only because it got forgotten at the last meeting, I'm going to start off with the egg hunt.
Yeah, let's start off with the egg hunt.
Saturday.
Rescheduled.
It says 11:30. We're going to actually, you can get there 11:30. We're going to start at 12, but make sure you're there because it's over by 12:02.
It goes quickly, yeah.
This Thursday night, the health department will be at the Hilton Neighborhood Association talking about the services that they're providing, and also getting ready for the May 3rd health fair that's going to be over at Dehart Park. And lastly, I just want to give an update from our Public Safety Committee. We meet every month with the chief, and a couple of things we've been talking about. We reviewed the middle school traffic pattern change, and it's working very well. We are looking to do some changes at the for drop-offs and pickups at the high school. We've heard that the students are coming up with a plan themselves, so we're waiting for that. We're going to coordinate our response with their proposal and see how we can work things out. Just want to give a quick report on the South Essex Fire Department. Year to date, we've had about 800 incidents, most of which have been our EMS, Emergency Medical Services, that the SEFD provides to Maplewood. Luckily, we only have a handful, less than 2% are building fires, and quite honestly, most of those are mutual aid, where we provide services to our surrounding towns. And when we have a fire, they come in here and help us. So, and then we wanted to just highlight the work of our officers. We have been pushing them, to be totally honest, about doing more and getting out there, and they have been responding, and we want to thank them for that work, and the chief for his leadership. And we've been tracking year to year crime statistics, and we have a uniform crime report that deals with 8 major categories of crime: homicide, arson, rape, robbery, aggravated assault, burglary, theft, and auto theft. And those are the 8 subjects we look at. And overall, for January and February, between 2024 and 2025, we're down 27%. So that's a great number, and we want to thank the officers for doing a lot of crime suppression details. We've done where we've had some incidences of house break-ins and car robberies. We've done some work in that area. We've done some other work around theft, shoplifting, and things like that. So really want to thank the police. And we've also, because we've heard you talk to us about the need for getting a handle on traffic, speeding, pedestrian safety, and we wanted to give you those statistics too. Again, for January and February, between 2024 and 2025, our moving violations are up 14%. Our radar summonses are up 300%. Warning notices are up 11%. And our vehicle stops are up 23%. So we've been, again, urging our officers, we don't want folks to get tickets, but we want you to drive within the law and honor the safety that we've been talking about tonight with the bike lanes and everything. That goes to car safety, pedestrian safety, bike safety, and the officers are responding. We want to thank them for that. And that's it, Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. DeLuca? Seeing none, we'll move on to Committee Member Engel.
Thank you. I think Mr. DeLuca took my update, but I'm just going to add to the Community Health Fair that's on Saturday, May 3rd, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Dehart Park. Free health screenings, free food and activities, giveaways, raffles, and prizes, free bike lessons for kids, but you should register, request a helmet. And I only have a QR code, but there should be a link available for you to sign up.
That it?
That's it.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Engel. Any questions for Committee Member Engel? Nope, seeing none. Deputy Mayor Herman, you're up.
Thank you. 53 days. That is the amount of time we have until the pool is open. Get ready.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
They're getting punchy here. Okay.
It doesn't feel that way outside,
So
but
this is really
okay.
exciting because our pool is opening on time. It is opening the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend. That is March 24. And guess what's happening tomorrow?
May 24th.
May 24. Yeah.
It's late.
It is late. So tomorrow is very exciting because starting tomorrow, you can sign up for Early Bird. And as Mr. Weary mentioned, that will be 10% off from last year. So we have some really good rates starting tomorrow. Please don't show up before 10. So Early Bird starts tomorrow, and also you can sign up for the swim team starting tomorrow. We will have Pool Pal user fees and also Maplewood, South Orange reciprocal fees. Those will be open in a few weeks. So Early Bird is tomorrow. We have a new rec sport, field hockey. So go to Rec Desk and sign up. That's very exciting. And as Mr. DeLuca already mentioned, our egg hunt. It was rained out last weekend, so it's this Saturday. Actually, go ahead and book all your Saturdays for us because the next 3 Saturdays are booked up. We got the egg hunt this Saturday. We got our softball parade happening next Saturday on April 26th. And then the week after that is May 3rd, our health fair. So as Ms. Ingles said, you can sign up for bike lessons, bike helmets, all the fun stuff. So that's it for my report. Save your Saturdays to come and hang out with Maplewood.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Herman. Any questions?
Not a question, but an add-on. I forgot, April 26th is also the river cleanup by the
Oh, that's right.
Environmental Advisory Committee
Oh, right.
as well.
When is that
Busy
again?
day, April 26th. And it will be at Memorial Park. The check-in tables are somewhere in the
Right
park by the
by, right
river.
by,
At the Civic House.
Civic House.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep, like I said,
It's 10 to
if
1.
it's Saturday, you got something going on.
What's
Mayor-
in your,
Wear clothes
what's in
to
your
work and
thermos?
bring gloves and water shoes.
Yeah, there'll be gloves given out too, and garbage bags.
Mayor, through you, because I'm not allowed to speak to the
Yes.
deputy mayor directly. I would just
Directly.
like to compliment through you, Mayor,
Parliamentary
that
procedure.
that the deputy mayor made a big splash with her report.
She did. Wow. Wow.
No, if that was through me, it would never come out. It would never come out of my mouth, never. All right,
Let's get to
my report real quick, and I mean it. Unlike others. No, so we have a resolution on for approval. Tonight, we had the two speakers who spoke not about bike lanes tonight, came to speak about the Immigrant Trust Act for New Jersey. Basically, what this does is codify the Attorney General's directive of towns not needing to help the federal government with deportations. And so they did such a great job talking about it. And I shared with my colleagues a sample resolution that we will be writing one tonight based on that one with, changes to Maplewoodize it, as we say. So I'm would like to move a resolution number 147-25 in support of a New Jersey Immigrant Trust Act and urging our legislators in Trenton to codify this before we have a new governor potentially who's already, the Republican candidate is in fact advertising in his commercials, or one of the candidates a Republican, but the expected Republican candidate advertising that he will get rid of sanctuary cities in New Jersey. And we want to have this codified into law so that we don't have to worry about our residents and people living in fear. So I made a motion. Can I get a second?
I'll second your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Daffis. Ms. Fritzen? Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Luca?
Yes.
Engel?
Yes.
Ms. Herman?
Yes.
Mayor Adams? Yes, thank you, and thank you to my colleagues for agreeing to support that as I expected you would, knowing where we are. So, all right. Discussion items. We have 3 on for tonight. Let's see how quickly we can get through Dehart grass playing field, Mr. DeLuca.
Thank you, Mayor.
Not that I'm in a hurry or anything.
Yes, so I understand. It is getting late. So on April 3rd, we had a public meeting at the community center in Dehart Park, in which we also taped and put it on YouTube, and it's on the Township website. We had about 50 people there. We had presentations from myself, Deputy Mayor, our engineer, Mr. Kittner, and our engineer consultants from VHB. We then talked about this at the Engineering Public Works Committee on April 9th, and we have a report that we'd like to present publicly and to the Township Committee for adoption tonight. So I can read this real quick. Number 1, the committee supports the recommendation of the Township Engineer and Consulting Engineer, VHB, to construct the Dehart playing field as an all-grass field that is based on high school sports dimensions, can accommodate multiple sports, and eliminates the existing softball field. The committee agrees that the new design will permit the resting of portions of the field from organized sports play, allowing grass to grow and be healthy. Number 2, the committee asked the engineering team to evaluate and report on the positives and negatives of using a sand-based versus a soil compost-based field. B, evaluate and report on the capacity of the current stormwater drainage system to accommodate the water from the field and that the use of this drainage system would not cause neighborhood flooding. C, include more tree planting along the perimeter of the playing field fence and in other parts of Dehart Park. And D, consider opportunities to create passive park space in grass areas outside the playing field fence for use by park users for picnics, sitting, and other types of non-sports activity. Number 3, the committee asked the Department of Community Services to A, evaluate the current permit system for field use to ensure it is equitable, fair, and transparent, and includes time on the field for non-organized recreation use by park users. B, develop an overall field management plan for Dehart and all Maplewood parks to ensure that fields are not overscheduled, and enforcement practices, including the use of field usage and the open-close status of all parks, is clearly communicated to residents. C, evaluate field usage at all Maplewood parks to ensure that softball activities are not impacted by the elimination of the Dehart softball field, and that other sports such as ultimate frisbee and field hockey are scheduled for Dehart Park. And D, consider offering more department field programs in Dehart Park. 4, the committee asked the Department of Public Works to A, evaluate the recommended field maintenance plan for Dehart and create a similar maintenance plan for all Maplewood Parks athletic fields, and B, report on the cost to perform the recommended field maintenance at Dehart and other Maplewood parks, either through in-house operations or a private contractor. And 5, the committee acknowledges that Maplewood will no longer have a lighted softball field. Future consideration should be given to the installation of lights in another Maplewood park to accommodate evening softball practices and games. Mayor, I would move that to accept that recommendation from the Engineering, Public Works, and Planning Committee.
Well, I'll second that. Is there any discussion besides what we've discussed at Engineering, Public Works, and Planning and at the public meeting? Or what's your thoughts?
I just have one question. Beyond the design, the other, are they conditions, the other points that are part of moving this forward, that we need to better understand what the maintenance cost is going to be? We need to better understand what the drainage is going to be, sand versus soil, and so on and so forth. What I'm concerned about is that we just move forward and some of that stuff is not done and evaluated. And then we're sort of like in a situation where we're spending a lot of money to redesign the field. But some of these other points are not, further evaluated. In other words, are we going to spend any money and move forward with this before we have all that other information?
So yes, we are, because the point of information that is absolutely critical is the dimensions of the field. Once they have the dimensions of the field, then they'll be able to know the drainage system that they need. And in doing that, we'll be able to determine the amount of drainage and where it goes. So that answers one question. And then at the same time, we can talk about whether it's soil or sand. And the tree planting and other stuff are just constant conversations we will have during the development process. On the community service stuff, that's really going to be, I think, the work of Health and Community Services, the subcommittee, to work on that stuff. And then Engineering Public Works is going to deal with the engineering work, and the Department of Public Works. So, yeah, that's going to be an ongoing conversation. But right now, the engineers can't move any further until we tell them what the dimensions are.
But we can tell them that though, right?
I understood it that that's what we're doing right now. We're saying, yes, we want this concept. We have a concept, not like a plan really. So we want this concept. So now move forward and answer all these questions while you're moving forward. Let us know if it's sand or soil.
Correct.
Let us know about the maintenance costs for future years so we can budget for it. Let us know A, B, C, D, and E while you're devising the plan. And yeah, the community service piece, in addition to the Health and Community Services, I think the Rec Advisory Committee and the Field Subcommittee can help with all that, and in collaboration with the school district and South Orange.
What they need to know right now is if we're going to have a ball field there or not.
Right.
If we approve this, then they're not going to have a ball field, so their design becomes different than if we have a ball field. And then all this has to be part of that. So nothing can go forward until we get these answers, except that they know what the design is, and now they can start design, they can come up with that concept of what an all-grass field we're going to be, and then answer these questions as we move forward.
Right, but the construction won't happen until we have the other things.
Construction's not going to happen until 2026.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah, I'm just concerned about the maintenance piece, right? Like we want to get this right. This is a big investment.
so what they said at the meeting was that at the end of this process, they're going to provide a plan of maintenance, the engineers. And so that'll obviously be different if it's sand-based or soil-based, so all that has to be done. So there's all a bunch of steps as we go forward.
And I guess who is doing the maintenance, right? Internal, external, if those are important factors, I think that we have to address when we have that conversation.
And that is going to be, that Public Works has to give us that.
Right, so this is just about the engineering plan, which we have already contracted. This isn't anything to do with the RFP for the actual,
Oh, absolutely not. No.
Right.
just to clarify.
Thank you. That's what I should have asked, and you summarized it well. Thank you. I'm good.
Okay. Ms. Fritzen, will you take a roll so we can pass that motion?
Mr. Daffis,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Sengel,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Mayor Adams.
Yes, thank you. Next discussion item, something we haven't talked about at all.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So we've had 3 virtual meetings in the February. We broke it up into 3 sections of the road of Parker Avenue based on sort of the composition of who lives there and some of the issues where it was more more commercial and institutional, for example, between Prospect and Maplewood Avenue, and then where it's more residential between between Prospect and Boyden Avenue, and then again where it goes back into some commercial. We have our park there between Boyden Avenue and the Irvington Avenue Business District. So we had about, as I said, we had 3 virtual meetings. We had about 60 participants at each of those meetings. We had 49 people make 64 comments over the course of those meetings. Some people spoke once, some people spoke twice, and 3 spoke at all 3 meetings. And then we had, of the 49 people, 23 lived on Parker, 26 did not live on Parker, although we don't have really good, some people who don't live on Parker may live on Park, but didn't identify themselves, that realize who identified themselves, or they might live adjacent to Parker. Could be a house or 2 in. 27 people spoke for the bike lanes, about 55%. 17 spoke against, and 5 didn't say one yes or no. Those who identified themselves as living on Parker, most were against, 65%, 22% were for, and 3 did not say. Those not living on Parker, 2 were against, 8% were against, 84% were in favor. Tonight we heard 37.
39.
30, well, I didn't count the 2 that didn't speak about this. 38. And then we also received a number of emails, and I went through them.
They're still coming.
And they're still coming in, but as of the start of this meeting, we got about 30 emails. Through the whole course of this time, about 18 of those were yes, 12 were no, although I will say that most of the people who were no's also identified themselves as living on Parker. So here's where we are. You know, we did discuss this more at the Engineering Public Works Committee. Tonight was never meant to be a decision night. I think all of us heard a lot of information. We heard more tonight even. And we've been asked to be deliberate, to be thoughtful. And I think all of us are doing that and trying to come up with the best decision. There are some challenges that we've heard of, and we're going to try to work them out with our engineering team. And we're going to have to go back out to the community, I think, and fine tune this. I think overall, based on the conversations we had in Engineering Public Works and Planning Committee, there is favorability on the part of the Township Committee to work something out, to create some bike lanes on Parker. How we do that and how we deal with all these issues that came up, we're going to have to balance all of it. Some of them are things that we've already worked out. For example, the person who spoke about having bollards up and down Parker, that he also spoke about that online. We're not going to be doing that. So if we put bollards up, they're going to be at certain locations. So some of this is a work in progress. We're moving it forward. We are talking about permit systems. We are doing inventories of side streets, so we completely understand what are the parking limitations there now. We are looking at issues of handicap parking. We're looking at additional traffic calming. We did install a four-way stop there. There may be an opportunity to do something different or more, another four-way stop. So those are things that we've asked our engineering team to take a look at. And we will take this information and give this to them and continue to have this conversation. So I think this is a process. Just on the timeline, we will not be introducing our capital budget until May, and this will be in the capital budget. The impact on the operating budget that you heard tonight is $15,000, because the capital budget, you have to put 5% in your operating budget. So we will likely put the money in the capital budget for bike lanes. And if we spend it, then we will move forward with that. If not, then we can either cancel that appropriation or potentially use it for bike lanes in another part of town. So as the mayor said, nothing's been finalized yet. We're continuing to have this conversation. Even if we do adopt in May, our funding would not be available to July or August. So we have some time to continue to look at these questions, to work out things, go back to the community and try to explain how we think we can make this work.
Okay, does anyone have any?
Can I just add something? I just want to say, because some people have mentioned that it feels like this is a done deal, and I know I'm the, unapologetically supporting bike lanes, because I agree that we need to look to the future. But we have like a concept, an idea of what we want to do, and I think the idea behind having all these public meetings and talking about all these meetings and having this kind of engagement is so that we can hear from people who are for it and against it, so we can work together, so we can come to the table and collaborate together. So I'm sad that a lot of people think that, oh, this was a done deal. We had all these public meetings. They want to move forward. We do want to move forward with bike lanes because the master plan recommends it. And because we have to look to the future, we need to create different transportation networks. We need to get cars off the road. We need to stop being so auto-centric for the environment and for pedestrian safety. But this is a conversation we're trying to have with people on Parker, with people in the community, so that we can get to it together at a place that we're comfortable with. And not everyone's going to be comfortable with the outcome. No one's ever comfortable with 100% comfortable, but, we're working together. And I do just hope that we're not, pushing it down the line with some other projects that we've done, delay, because we can't reach consensus. But I just wanted to add that this is supposed to be a community conversation.
Fair. Anyone else want to say anything?
I just want to thank everybody who engaged with us this evening in person or online, and keep doing that. The emails work. When you reach out to us, we do read those emails. Yes, we do. And I thought, as Committee Member DeLuca noted, a lot of great points were raised tonight, pro and against. And we have to find a way to find a compromise and make it workable. And I have faith in this committee, and I have lots of faith in the chair of the Engineering, Public Works, and Planning Committee, Committee Member DeLuca, who is sort of leading this effort and bringing it all together, all of the various elements. There is no one more thoughtful, more measured, more inclusive. We will get there. Let's keep talking, though, not fighting. Let's keep talking and working together.
Mr. DeLuca really liked your comments.
Did I make him blush?
No. No, but I was going like this, and he's like, let him keep talking.
I wanted to say something as well.
Sure.
So New Jersey and Essex County in particular rank the highest in the nation for pedestrian accidents. And we see this in Maplewood as well. Not every pedestrian who is hit makes the news, but every person who is impacted is one person too many. Because of this, I'm strongly in favor of traffic calming throughout our town, especially around schools and in places where our kids walk and ride their bikes to school. With our school district's intentional integration plan, we are now seeing children attend schools much farther from home. They are making friends with kids that are much farther from home. So it's imperative that we provide safe ways for them to get to school and around town. And because of this, I strongly support a complete streets approach to town circulation planning that takes into consideration the needs of all travelers on our roads, not just cars. I also support the Vision Zero plan adopted by our state that envisions a time in which our roadways are designed to ensure zero traffic deaths. Installing a system of bike lanes in Maplewood fits with both of these approaches. Parker, in particular, connects the village with two of our schools, as well as the Greenway and Donnell, which would go to the train. However, as Mr. DeLuca pointed out, challenges remain. And I agree, I believe we must work through these challenges. To me, some of the biggest challenges are the CHS drop-off and pickup situation, which we are working on. The accessibility, we just talked about the All Access Committee. Accessibility is important. It's a very big thing for our seniors and for our disabled residents, and we need to look at that and take that seriously. I just wanted to, also address, we've heard from a lot of people saying, I like bike lanes, but just not on this road. And, the reality is that residents are already biking on Parker. High school kids are already biking to Columbia High School. So Parker may not have been my first choice of a place to put bike lanes, but Parker is where the biking is happening. And they deserve to be able to bike safely. So I just wanted to, in summary, say that I support bike lanes on Parker. But I think that the wise move forward here is more community engagement to work through these challenges. But I do see this as something very important to do in our town. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Last discussion item, fee adjustment, rental registration, zoning, and CCU. Mr. Daffis.
Much less interesting and fun if anyone's still awake out there, online or in person. The code committee moved forward updated fees as per the recommendations of our community development director, Annette DePalma, who oversees zoning, construction, and code enforcement in our township. We have since then reviewed those recommendations with legal, and legal has also made some recommendations. So the adjustments are as follows for the public record. I've already forwarded this information to members of the Township Committee for their review and consideration prior to this evening, although I was hoping to give it to them a little bit earlier than last minute today, which is what I did. So zoning review is an increase from $50 to $100 per review. And this reflects what we're doing these days, which is a much more comprehensive zoning review process than we did before. Committee member Engel asked me a question about that, and I neglected to answer you, but I'm going to answer you right now. Gone are the days where a business owner or someone wanting to do business in town would, try to, on their own, figure out what zoning is allowed, what's permitted use, and so on and so forth in any particular business district. And since then, the community development department under Director DePalma has created a very comprehensive zoning review process, a one-stop shop where someone can find out the answers to all those questions: zoning, land use, all kinds of construction, permitting, regulations, and information. And that is cross-referenced against all the different ordinances. There might be design standards in the village, not the same ones on Springfield Avenue, for instance. There might be other restrictions. Recently, we adopted a demolition ordinance. So now the zoning review also requires cross-referencing with our Historic Preservation Commission, all of this work. So it is really, and one thing that we did recently, thanks to all of us in part, which is we created an administrative zoning review that allows us to be more business friendly in certain circumstances that doesn't require a planning board site plan review. That's something that our zoning officer is going to do as well. And so for that reason, and because $50 were at the low end when compared to our neighboring communities, we thought an increase from 50 to 100 was appropriate and reasonable, and the code committee felt the same. In terms of penalties and violations for zoning review, as I said, we also received information from our township attorney since then, and the recommendations for offenses is the first offense is now $1,500, second offense $1,750, third and subsequent offenses $2,000. And those are up from $1,000, $1,500, and $2,000 respectively. Moving on to rental registration fees, our landlords are required to register their dwelling units that they rent out to folks. The fee remains at $75. There is no change. A missed appointment fee with one of our township officials is proposed at $50 from the current $25. Rental registration violations or penalties, first offense $250 from $100, second $500 from $250, third or subsequent offense $1,000 from $500. And lastly, CCU, the Certificate of Continued Use and Occupancy. A CCU is required every time private property is transferred in ownership. And here the fees, an application for CCU is currently $100, which is low, again, when compared to neighboring communities. The proposal is to raise it by 50 to 150. That would apply if the CCU is requested at least 10 business days before the closing date for the property. For an expedited processing, which is anywhere between 6 and 9 days from the closing, the proposal is $300, which is up $100 from the current $200. And last minute, what I call last minute processing, what in our ordinance is 5 days or less from the closing. And believe it or not, we get these CCU requests very last minute to closing date. The current fee is $300. The proposal is $500. And a reinspection fee for CCU when the property fails the initial inspection is proposed at $100 from the current $50. As I mentioned, the code committee, we discussed, we reviewed, we got legal's opinion, and we recommend to the township committee that we adopt these proposed changes. Is there any discussion or questions?
Any discussion? Two. Okay, all right. So
And
put it-
do I need to move it?
No, no.
No,
just
because
put
we're
it
doing
on for
ordinance. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll do an ordinance, yeah.
So we'll have the ordinance prepared for the next meeting on first reading. Okay, now we'll move to the consent agenda. Can I get a motion, Mr. DeLuca?
I move the consent agenda.
A second? Kristen?
Staffis,
Yes.
Luca,
Yes.
Engel.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Adams.
Yes, thank you. We come to the second public comment on any subject matter. If there's anyone who would like to speak to the Township Committee, either online or in person, please come to the podium if you're here and raise your hand if you're online. Anyone, Ms. Perez?
See no hands, Mayor.
Okay, with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn unless we want to stay past 11.
I'll motion to adjourn.
Second.
Staffis,
Yes.
Luca, Engel.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Adams.
Yes, thank you. We'll see everyone on May 6th. May 6th, right?
Tuesday.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Yeah, Tuesday.